Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Rick coming to you live with another episode of Only Football. We're going to go over week 18, what happened, playoff implications, draft order implications, and Kyler and I are going to do a special edition of top five, including the playoff teams. So let us begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is January 9th, which means it's playoff time, baby.
Let's go.
It's playoff time. I'm not going to lie. It's a bittersweet moment for Bears fans and Broncos fans and Texans fans. I'm not going to go down the list. So it's nice to have a dog in the fight, but nonetheless, it's going to be, if you enjoy football, there's going to be some good football games coming up. So we're going to get into that kind of stuff tomorrow. Today, we're going to do more of the week 18 recap, and not just that, but we're going to recap how these teams actually did this year, maybe kind of expectations versus what really happened. And there's definitely some teams that may have exceeded the expectations, and then there are some that the expectations were really high and they were really bad. So let's get right into it.
Let's definitely get into it. We're going to start off here with the two Saturday games we had, and we're going to start off with Chiefs at Raiders. The Chiefs dominated the Raiders in this one. It was, I didn't.
31-13.
31-13. There you go. Kyle's got it. 31-13. The Raiders looked rough. I mean, obviously Derek Carr hasn't been there for the last 2 weeks. But the Chiefs I feel like this was a tune-up game for the Chiefs.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of, I don't like these two teams, right? But this is one of those games where if you didn't watch it, the score could have been misleading. The Chiefs did dominate the game. You got to give credit where credit's due, but there was a scenario where the Chiefs could have gone back toe to toe, kind of got into a shootout with the Chiefs. I'd say there's a touchdown drive that they had. They were on, I think it was 4th and 2 on the goal line, and they went for it, and it was an incomplete pass. And they had the opportunities in this game to compete with the Chiefs, and that's why it didn't feel like an old school ass whooping, was because there was actually opportunities for the Raiders to stay competitive and keep, that's why even into the fourth quarter, it wasn't really over until like there was 10 minutes left in the fourth. And it was like, okay, if it hasn't happened yet, it's probably not going to happen. But it wasn't like there was no opportunities for the Raiders. They kind of didn't capitalize on them. So moving forward with Jarrett Stidham, it did feel like an audition, right?
Yeah. The only thing I will say about like the score and all that is just the Chiefs looked like they were just toying with the Raiders at some point. They got into that huddle. They did a circle thing. They went into position. They scored a touchdown on it, for Christ's sake, right? Like, and then they called it back for holding, which it was just like, at that point, the Chiefs are like, what can we not do? You know what I mean?
I think everybody was checking their cup at that play to see what they poured and how strong it was, because I was watching that and I was like, what did I do?
Yeah, what's going on?
Am I the only one that saw that way, the way it just happened? It's like, no, man, you're the only one. They just huddled up and went to the line like normal.
They did a whirlpool.
Imagine trying to explain that. You're like, no, you didn't see them spinning in circles, holding each other? Dude.
If it wasn't on camera, nobody would fucking believe it.
Yeah, so it felt like Jarrett Stidham, after getting into a shootout with the 49ers, a juggernaut. We'll talk about them later, but it felt like Jarrett Stidham had an opportunity to audition for the Raiders job. Obviously, the backstory with McDaniels is the reason I feel that way, because any other head coach, there's a good chance that it's just he had a good game and we don't really read into it too much. This guy
Mhm.
was with Josh McDaniels his entire career in New
Mhm.
England. And then the moment he gets the head coaching job in Vegas, McDaniels wants to have Stidham on that roster. And then you saw what we saw against the 49ers. So it did feel like there was potentially an audition going on. And I wouldn't say after that game that it was a time to just kind of turn the page on Jared Stidham. I would say
Mhm.
it's a good time to sit down with a young quarterback and go over the film and say, like, this play, this play, and this play. We capitalize on these opportunities, and I won't say we'll beat the Chiefs, but in the fourth quarter, we'll be there. We'll be
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
that is really all you can ask for out of a young guy. I wouldn't turn the page on him yet. I saw a lot
Mhm.
of potential. I saw he looked like he belonged in the NFL. I'll say that much. So the Chiefs lock up the first seed.
Yep.
Unless you had anything else to say about that game, we can go right into expectations kind of on the Chiefs and the Raiders.
Yeah, and then that's what I was gonna say. We can go into like just what the season held for them, what they did all year, and kind of like you said, expectations. The Raiders pretty much going to either I don't know what Derek Carr's contract situation is, whether they're going to trade him or whether they're just going to not re-sign him, whatever the situation may be. Derek Carr is no longer a Raider. That's pretty much the bottom line. Devontae Parker literally came to the Raiders because he wanted to play with Derek Carr. So now there's a situation as well that they have to deal with. Josh McDaniels is their head coach. I guess another year, I guess, is in store. I mean, he did a little bit better than expected. I don't know, but I feel like with the talent that he had, it probably should have been better. But I think he's just his own worst enemy at this point. So we'll see what happens with this team. I don't see them coming into next year, especially after what's going on with Derek Carr and what Josh McDaniels did with his team this year. I don't expect them next year being any sort of threat to the defending AFC West champion Chiefs or even the number two in the division. As far as the Chiefs, number one seed, that's kind of who they are. They're a very good team. Patrick Mahomes is really good. The defense struggled earlier this year. So that was a concern. But the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes proved that, hey, just because we lost Tyreek Hill does not mean that we have lost what it is to be the Chiefs team in the last 4 years.
Yeah, and honestly, if anybody else besides the Chief would have won the AFC West, it would have been I want to say it would have been surprising, but it might not have been just because you got to remember the stock was really high on all of the other teams in the
Yeah.
AFC West, and
Yeah.
the stock was lower on Kansas City because of Tyreek Hill.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say, even though the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game every year with Mahomes, I'm going to say they exceeded their expectations. They, for Patrick Mahomes to throw more passing yards than he has ever in a season without Tyreek Hill. And
Insane.
then Patrick Mahomes will win the MVP. I think Jalen Hurts would have won it. Maybe not, but I think his best chance would have been not to miss those games. Like that part of
Yep.
the MVP award is missing. You can miss one. That's it. You can miss one. If you miss more than one, like it's over. So Mahomes didn't miss any football this year. He's going to be the MVP. I mean, everything that's happened for Kansas City, they're going to be a machine, and they're going to be a machine for a long time.
Yeah.
So the Raiders, I'm going to say they underperformed what should have been done. I mean, you look at the roster,
Yep.
the acquisitions that they made with Khalil Mack. Was that Khalil Mack?
No, it wasn't
That's
Mac.
the
It was
Chargers. Who did they get? Chandler
Jones. That's what
Chandler
it was.
Jones.
Yeah.
It's just they had a lot of injuries. There's a lot of newness. Josh McDaniels, to me, is still a huge question mark, because we've only seen Josh McDaniel fail, right? And that includes this season. You don't have to make the playoffs, but if you don't have a winning record, then you're a loser. That is just by definition. Like, we're not being harsh here. Like, that's what being a loser is.
Yep.
So I would say nobody really probably expected this to be a 6-win football team. 6 and double-digit losses is a failure. And the hype was unfortunately not real for the AFC West. Two teams proved to be real, and that was kind of what we said in the beginning of the year. We said, the truth of the matter is all these teams won't be in the playoffs based on how many times these teams play each other. There's going to be a couple. I said there's going to be one team that just has 5 wins, 6 wins. I don't know if you remember that. I was like, it's like the thing no one's talking about. It's going to be one team with 6 wins. Wasn't expecting 2 teams to have 6 or less wins. So, that is the Chiefs and the Raiders. We'll go with our Saturday night game. The Tennessee Titans were playing the Jaguars for the division crown in the AFC West. The Titans end up scoring 16 points, play Jacksonville really tough. And honestly, if it weren't for that defensive turnover that led to a touchdown on the moment, look at the short we posted. We didn't even know if it was going to be called or not. And Jacksonville scores on that and wins the game. So not the way you want to win. What do you think about winning on a defensive possession when you have Trevor Lawrence?
This is what I will say. The defense saved Lawrence's ass that game. I will say that. The defense is the reason the Jaguars won that game. And I almost wish, because the Jaguars are in the playoffs, I almost wish I could say Trevor Lawrence led his team to a victory over the Tennessee Titans, not only securing the AFC South, but securing a position in the playoffs. I wish I could say that. But it was the defense. And the defense, again, just saved the Jaguars' ass, including Trevor Lawrence. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they won on a defensive, an interception or fumble 6?
Something like that. Fumble 6, strip sack return.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Strip sack, fumble 6. Yeah. Because, I mean, if I'm being honest, Dobbs was playing pretty mediocre, but it seemed like maybe he had something in it at that last drive. And he was just, again, it stops. He's been in the league 2 years and has been a backup every single time, or maybe like 4 years or something like that. I don't really put too much weight behind it, other than the fact that Trevor Lawrence didn't really look that great either. That's the only thing that kind of scares me as they go into the playoffs, is that Trevor Lawrence didn't really look that good. The Titans, man, though, they are a team. They are a team that overcame a lot of injuries and still played pretty well. They lost a lot of games in a row there towards the end to kind of get into the situation with the Jags. They're just coached very, very well. That's what I'll say. And it sucks because I know I love Vrabel, and I think you and I said this. Vrabel is fucking awesome. But a team had a win, and that was the Jags, and it was the Jags defense that got it.
Yeah, and I hear you about the defense saving the ass. I totally agree. But I don't want to forget that it was Trevor Lawrence, not the defense, that put Jacksonville in this situation to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
This win and get in game was Trevor Lawrence putting the Jaguars on his back multiple times in the fourth quarter, scoring up to 21 points, getting 3 tugs in a fourth quarter. I mean, we've seen Trevor Lawrence put some impressive film together. I think we mentioned it on Saturday. It's better that he gets that out of his system now. Like, okay, now he knows what it's like to play potentially a really pressure game. But also, the Tennessee Titans, they've been pretty mediocre this year because of their injuries and whatnot.
Yep.
But I bet you didn't know this. Let's see if I can find it, because this is actually pretty crazy. So San Francisco rushing defense, right? They've given up 1,321 yards on the entire season, which is the second least in the NFL. Tennessee Titans are first. I didn't know that. The Tennessee Titans have the best rushing defense in the NFL. The Mike Vrabel, he's not going to just push over, right? He had his team playing tough football. When you can't beat them with talent, you have to be tougher and more physical. And that's what you got. You got a 16-20 game that was very physical. And Jacksonville, no matter how you sliced it, was going to have to fight for it. And maybe you can look at it like, okay, well, at least now we know if we need our defense to win a football game, we can get it that way as well. So I think Jacksonville's in good shape. I think Tennessee underperformed their expectations. Let's say preseason, I expected them to be back in the playoffs, and then to the halfway point of the season, I think they were 6-1, 6-2, and then they lost 90% of the remaining schedule to only get, let's see, like 1 or 2 more wins since like late September, early October, whatever it was. So, or no, it would be like late October. They just stopped winning. So, and then Jacksonville obviously turning the worst record in last year to making the playoffs. Obviously, Houston terrible. Tennessee not good this year. Colts awful. This is the worst division in football, just to be clear.
It is. It really is. It really is.
So, yeah, but whatever. All you can do is win your division. Everyone's got a couple goals. The first goal, win your division. Second goal, win your conference. Third goal, win the Super Bowl. Jacksonville won their division. So they've checked the box to me.
Absolutely. And before we get into the season recap for these guys, Tyler here in the chat. Yo, what's good, boys? How's it going, Tyler? Thanks for joining. We're going to cheers you. I got water, no beer for me.
Yeah, I got an energy drink. I was lagging.
I needed it. What are your Super Bowl predictions? You bet you got to stay tuned. You got to stay tuned. Not for this episode, but maybe for a couple episodes you're down, this next week or so. You will stay tuned. We can't give it away. We can't
throw all the content out on one
episode. We can't do it all in one episode. But as far as the season recap for the Jags, they are exceeding expectations, at least for me. Because you got Doug Peterson, you got a Super Bowl winning coach, a coach that knows how to coach an NFL team, some guy who isn't going to stay behind in Cincinnati, Ohio, and get his, or start touching buttholes and stuff like Urban Meyer. But could you imagine if they would have gotten Doug Peterson last year? Could you imagine? Like, we would probably saying in the preseason, yeah, the Jags are probably going to win the division, and we would have been right. It probably would have been a lot better.
I don't like to play that game personally because
who knows
if because they had such a shitty coach last year, they can now appreciate a Doug Peterson more than they ever could if they just came into him. Like, life is weird like that.
Sure, but I think Urban Meyer and the fact that he lasted 6 games and all the stories that came out later from him really impacted Trevor Lawrence's growth and just that growth of that Jags team, that once they got Trevor Lawrence, we were like, wow, hey, there might be something going on here in Jacksonville, right? So I think that definitely gave Trevor Lawrence a really bad look coming into this year as far as like a quarterback. But they are on the up and up. They're in the playoffs, and you said it yourself. The next decade, the AFC South belongs to the Jags, right? And I think they're going to be really good in this division. I don't know if I would, say the same thing, but I think they're definitely going to be very good. As far as the Titans, it seems like Malik Willis is just not it for them because you threw in Dobbs and he's a veteran technically, but he's played what, like, other than the games he played this year, like 2-3 games.
I wasn't lying when I said he was like the worst quarterback I've ever seen live. Like, I was serious when I said that. He's bad. He's not ready.
I mean, when you got him in instead of Malik Willis, like, it's probably says something about Malik Willis. Like, he's trash too. So I don't know where the Titans are going. I don't know in which direction. They traded away their number one wide receiver. The quarterback they picked up doesn't seem to have any trust from the team. Tractorcito, Mr. King Henry. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know. Is he going to continue to just be the best player on this team? And that's a running back we're talking about, right? So we'll see what happens with this Titans team. What do you got for the recap for these guys?
For Jacksonville and Tennessee?
Yep.
Pretty much like everything I said before. Like, I think Jacksonville definitely exceeded what they were expected, going from being the worst to the best. I mean, that's a really hard jump to make, to go from, and we saw Detroit. I believe they were the second worst team in the NFL. and
Yeah, they were down there.
They ended up with how many wins did they? So Jacksonville ended up with 9,
9,
and they ended up with 8. So wait, no, they ended up with 9 as well. So
yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
The Detroit and Jacksonville. I mean, we'll get to that, but yeah, Jacksonville, they're moving in the right direction, and it probably feels good to go in the offseason for the first time in 4 years and say we don't need to pull the rug on this thing. We don't need to find a quarterback, a GM, an owner, or a coach. So I feel like as long as you got your quarterback and your coach, which I believe only 5 teams really have their quarterback and their coach. There's teams with a quarterback, but they don't have a coach, and then there's a coach. I think Jacksonville has it figured out right now, and this just reminds me of Peyton Manning's second year. Squeak into the playoffs with a 9-8 record, and then get the experience, even if he's one and done. That's valuable experience and reps. Next year, probably going to go 13-3, something like that. I mean, this could be like a new era, and I do believe we stepped into it. We're just early to the show right now in Tennessee. I think they're going to end up with Derek Carr. I remember I told you that. So I see basically just kind of a swap happening where the Raiders would trade Derek Carr to the Titans, and then Tom Brady would get traded to the Raiders. And then Tampa would get Jimmy Garoppolo. So those are like, it's a little bit of shuffling going on. I think a lot of teams are going to look a lot different next year, but however it is, I think Tennessee with Mike Vrabel and Derrick Henry is going to be a competitive team. I don't think that they're just going to disappear and Jacksonville's going to run away with it. This is going to be like a Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens scenario for the better part of the 2010 decade.
I like that.
So good football, ahead for the next decade. Like, football fans are in really good hands. So speaking of Tampa Bay, they're in the playoffs. Nothing to play for on Sunday. Not going to look into this game too hard. I'd rather spend the time talking about the teams. The Falcons, what I just said about going into the postseason, not having, your guys and not knowing what to do. Like, do you keep that coach? Do you fire the OC, the DCs, the GM? Obviously, we don't have our quarterback. I think the Falcons are going to be in a total rebuild, but you could make an argument that they were in a rebuild this year, and the fact that they got 7 wins in a rebuild, I think you're good with the coach. I don't think you need to pull the coach. And then you look at the Bucs, obviously major digression from being in the Super Bowl, keeping the whole roster. And then even last year, I mean, no one really thinks about it, but they only lost by 3 to the Rams, who won the Super Bowl. Like, Tom Brady could have won the Super Bowl last year had he beaten the Rams, and he put together an incredible comeback in the second half. If he would have, if that team would have been firing in the first half, the Bucs would have won the Super Bowl. So, So with all that in hindsight, Tampa Bay underperformed. Tom Brady came back. It was emotional. Everyone felt, hey, he's coming back for one reason and one reason only, and it's to go to the playoffs with a losing record, said nobody. So
I predicted that. What do you mean?
Yeah. That was in the preseason. Run the tape.
Run the tape.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are going to look a lot different next year. I think they underperformed this year. I don't think that I think they should have gone with Byron Leftwich to be the head coach. Something just doesn't feel on. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch Tampa, something just feels like it's almost like they're like running on empty. It's just like, hey, can we put some gas in this team somehow? Because it seems like it's a really good car. It just doesn't have any gas in it. You know what I mean?
And I think you said it. It's just, or I don't know who said it, but I remember hearing it. It's like, this football, the football they're playing sucks. The offense they're playing sucks. It's just not entertaining, right? It's just not what Tampa was the 2 seasons prior with Brady. And you're right. Brady coming back this year was like, oh, here we go. One last ride, right? Like, he's going to try to go off into the sunset with another Super Bowl. He's going to try to go for number 8. And at this point, it just kind of looks like, dude, what are you doing? It almost seems like, all right, this extra year was not good. But look, he's in the playoffs. You don't want to see Brady in the playoffs as the other team because it's Tom Brady. 7 rings for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, they definitely underperformed this year from what was expected. But they're in the playoffs. So, I mean, again, everyone starts off 0-0 in the playoffs. And that's kind of the mentality you got to go into the playoffs with. As far as the Falcons, yeah, I 7 wins. They looked very, very. What was the word we were using? Very feisty during the beginning of the season, right? At one point, we're like, yeah, at one point we're like, oh, are the Falcons going to win the NFC South? You know what I mean? Like at one point we were just kind of like, this is very surprising from the Falcons. So I would agree
that they steamrolled the Niners. That's when I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just surprising what happened. So I think the Falcons keep the coach for sure. Mariota, great kind of bridge quarterback, like we were talking about in the preseason. Looked good again during the time when they were winning. Cordero Patterson added to that. Desmond Ridder doesn't seem to be that bad of a quarterback. So I think they may have their quarterback there in Ridder. They just maybe need to add a couple pieces here in the draft, maybe see if they could pick someone up for the free agency. And again, the rebuild started this year. They had 7 wins. If they get less wins next year, but seem like a better, more complete team, I don't think it's a total loss for year 2 of the rebuild, but you can only hope for more wins. But I don't know. And in an NFC South that's led by the Bucks and the Saints and the Falcons and the who else is in there? The
Panthers.
The Panthers. You said that the AFC South was the worst division. I don't know. This one might also be in contention for that role.
No, they're bad. They're bad. They're bad.
They're bad.
But the Colts are literally like
yeah,
not putting a football team on the field. And the Texans,
that's true.
I mean,
they're up there. They're up there.
Yeah, the Texans most people thought would have the first round pick, and it's like, who's worse, the Colts or the Texans? That is like a really fun debate. And we'll get to that game in 2-3 games in a little bit. So, all right, the Buffalo Bills to lock up the number 1 seed in no. That's not possible. I'm sorry. The Buffalo Bills potentially could have. We know what happened. We're not gonna go back anymore with that. We will say Damar Hamlin released from the hospital, back home in Buffalo with his family. God bless you, Damar. So Bills not able to get a first seed, but they can get the second seed with a win against the Patriots. And the Patriots needing the win to just punch the ticket in the playoffs seems simple enough, but both these teams wanted to play. The Bills come out, first play of the game, return the kickoff. I mean, if you didn't think that there was, I don't know what you want to call it, but that was strange.
Higher power.
And then they did it again. They had 2 kickoff returns for the first time. They had a kickoff return in 3 years and 3 months. That was a really cool thing to hear. Obviously, an emotional win, an emotional game. The fans rallying together. You know, it just, there's a lot of power when the people gather, no matter what it is for. And I saw a country that really united, and it was actually really cool to see how we united. I feel like for the first time in a long time, like we were all kind of together.
For just a guy that almost died on the field, for him to for him just to get better. I mean, I think his charity got over $6 million, $7 million.
That's insane.
It was insane.
That's awesome. Yeah, the charity had to put a tweet out letting them know, like, hey, we're giving like the leftovers to the first responders and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that is awesome to see. That is just a bad situation that ends in a feel-good story. So the Bills get the win, 35 points. The Patriots are going to miss the playoffs for the second time in 3 years under Bill Belichick playing Brady list. So Bill Belichick's style of play just does not translate with Mac Jones and Cam Newton.
Yeah.
His style, talking through burps, old. His style is Tom Brady. He needs like a dude. Derek Carr keep your eye on Derek Carr. I could see Derek Carr thriving with Belichick.
But he's going to Tennessee, you said.
No. He is. But Mike Vrabel is like that too. Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel play very similar football.
I guess,
so it's not like I'm jumping sides that hard. So I do think that the Bills are going to be a powerhouse. I said it when we were live streaming the games. I was like, it's pretty simple. The Chiefs are going to play the winner of the Chargers-Jacksonville game. Either way, the Chiefs are going to win at home. So, I mean, they have an easy route to the AFC Championship game. I've seen it a million times when we had Peyton Manning. You can see the two teams that are going to play you. The winner is going to play us. And you're just like, you're already happy. Because in your head, you're like, okay, we have to win one real game to get to the Super Bowl. And that real game will be the winner of the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals game. We will get to that stuff. But I just wanted to say that the Bills, they did exactly what I thought they would do. They did not exceed my expectations. They did not fall below my expectations. I had them as a juggernaut going into the season. That's what they are. That's what they've always been. Josh Allen is an alien. He runs with the ball. He's powerful. He can throw the ball. It just seems like when they're firing, they're like really, really hard to beat. Von Miller just came on the Pat McAfee show, said potentially he will be back for the playoffs after ACL surgery.
Oh my God.
It would be the fastest recovery in NFL history.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
That'd be literally insane.
It would. He kept saying he feels good. He's not traveling with the team to go to games, doesn't, just protecting himself. He's keeping himself in a good mental space. But Von Miller can get back on the team, even more power to them. So the Patriots, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say they didn't exceed my expectations, but I never had them making the playoffs. They did 8 and 9. That's about where I saw them. And we have it on tape. So that's what's awesome about this show is that we can always go back and just be like, I was way off. Or I could be like, oh, I was on the money with that one. I know that you, and I'm not throwing you under the bus. I know that you said that like, no, kind of I am. A little bit I am. I actually want to ask you this question though. You said you just didn't feel comfortable ruling out Bill Belichick. So what are your feelings about Bill Belichick? Do you still have faith in him being one of the greatest coaches currently in the NFL? Do you think he can turn it around? Do you think it's his fault?
I think he's still probably one of the best coaches of all time for the NFL. Currently, I mean, I feel like if we're giving, what's his name, Vrabel, his roses for doing what he did with the Titans, I think we have to do the same thing with Bill here because
that's a good point.
It took week 18 for them to actually be ruled out of the playoffs, right? They got spanked by the Bills. Don't get me wrong. But I think we still have to give him his roses. We he's taking a second-year quarterback. He took a rookie quarterback to the playoffs. Yes, they lost in pretty bad fashion, I would say, against the Bills team. But I still think he's good. He's missed 2 playoffs in, you said the last 3 years, sure, but let's look at the last decade plus 2 times. That is very impressive. Is he?
Yeah, Tom Brady's awesome.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But you see what's happened, right? Like, it's getting towards the end of it. I feel like it's just like him and Brady are somewhat dropping off at the same time. I don't know.
God. Let me ask you one more question. We talked about Brady going to San Francisco and Las Vegas. What are the chances that Brady has one last dance with Bill Belichick next year?
I would be so very surprised if that happened.
Wouldn't that just be like awesome? It would be like this, like I'm home. It would be like LeBron returning to Cleveland. It would literally be the same.
No, because if it would have happened in any season, it would have happened this year. Because this year was absolutely insane. If it would have happened in any season, it would have happened.
He was on contract. He was on contract. He couldn't.
True, but he also did retire.
Belichick's not a trader. He
also
trade
did retire
for
technically. He also did retire.
Yeah, but they still, if you unretire, you have to go. That's why the Broncos have to send draft picks to New Orleans because even though Sean Payton retired, they still he retired in a contract. So when you come out of retirement, you're still under contract. Dude, people would just retire all the time to get out of shitty contracts.
Carson Palmer did it. Carson Palmer did it.
Well, whoever traded for Carson Palmer had to trade
draft capital. Trade for Carson Palmer. Nobody traded for Carson Palmer.
Well, then he wasn't on a contract.
Because he retired from the Bengals and then went and played with the Raiders. He's like, I'm going to retire. Retired, came back and played for the Raiders.
Most likely, he just finished his contract, and then when he came out of retirement, he was a free agent. Like,
I don't know. We'd have to look it up, but
Brett Favre was able to switch teams because he was on 1 year deal, so he would retire at the end of the 1 year deal, unretire, and be a free agent.
Pretty sure with Carson Palmer, he retired, and then we'd have to look it up, but whatever. Back to the Patriots, Bills. The Bills, I think I agree with what you said. They didn't exceed, but they didn't underperform. But I had them as like this 16-1, 15-2 team where they went in the middle of the season where it was still like, oh, what's going on with the Bills? And it was like, okay, no, never mind. They're fine. They're fine. It's okay. They, towards the later end of the season, we're like, oh, okay, they're fine. They didn't exceed, but they didn't underperform. They're going to go into the playoffs. Like you said, I think the Bengals-Bills game is going to be huge. And it's going to be them and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship out of those three teams. Again, Patriots, Colts, Steelers. That's just who I see them as, right? So as far as the kind of what's, I went over their season and the Patriots as well. I don't know who Mac Jones is. I don't know what he's going to become. But I just don't see him making the playoffs again with the Patriots.
Okay. That's fair. Our next game, you're probably going to be a little more emotionally invested in. This is the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. So I'll go quick because I know you. This is your world right here. I'll go just on the Vikings actually, and then I'll be super quick with the Bears. The Vikings, I predicted them to win a good amount of football games and win the North. Now, with that said, being completely transparent, to me, that was a bold pick. I felt good about it. Don't get me wrong. It was just like, I was like 70%, like enough to make the pick. But not enough to be like, Bills Chiefs. Like that is just set in stone. So I'm gonna be honest here. I'm gonna say they exceeded expectations. I did think the Vikings potentially could have the kind of season, but for them to actually do it is another thing. I think they exceeded because I had them maybe being an 11-12 win team. Here they, go into the playoffs with only 4 losses the whole season. That was a good season by the Vikings. They had 12 games where it was, I think, within like 3 points or something crazy. So it's like you feel really good about their ability to win close games, but then you see that, if they would have lost even half of those 12 games, then, they would have, 10 losses and have only 8 wins. So it's like, whatever.
Different story,
yeah, you can slice it different ways, but whatever it is, it is. The Vikings are in the playoffs. They are going to be at home for a playoff game and give credit where credit's due. I will see how the Vikings do in the playoffs. I think it depends on who they play. They're going to play the Giants. I'm going to take the Vikings. We're not doing that. We'll see. I don't want to do that right
Wait
now.
for the content, Kyle.
Sorry. I just sorry to everybody listening too about that pick. I know how some of the guys in the comments feel about that one. And the Chicago Bears, you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to say they exceeded my expectations. That sounds like the most oh my God. I do not mean it condescendingly. I literally mean
I had them at 0 wins, not gonna lie. So the fact that they got 3.
No, that's not what I mean, and you know it. I did not know that Justin Fields would take the step he took this year. It's just we haven't seen a Bears quarterback be great in so long, and after so many years, you just get used to it not happening. It's kind of like my whole life the Bills weren't good, so when they got good, it was like it looks weird on TV. And like the Bears have a franchise quarterback that almost broke the rushing record in the NFL, and just for that reason, the Bears exceeded I think the world's expectations. It doesn't matter that it didn't translate into wins this year. The most important thing that needed to happen happened. Justin Fields is your guy. I think they exceeded my expectations because of who Justin Fields became.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Before I touch on this game, I just want to give congratulations to Georgia Bulldogs for becoming national championship champions. Dogs. They got that dog in them for the second year in a row.
It's only happened like 4 times since like the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Bama did it was most recent where they went back to back. So, good for Georgia. They're becoming the Alabama of this decade probably, so who knows. As far as the Vikings, they definitely exceeded my expectations because I had the Packers still winning the division. I think I had the Vikings either close second, and then the Bears third, and the Lions fourth. So the Vikings definitely exceeded my expectations. Only in the fact that they won the division. I thought they were going to have a good team with Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. That doesn't really necessarily like blow me out of the water. Like, oh yeah, no, they're good, right? They're a good team, but they exceeded my expectations in the fact that they won the division and then the playoffs. Again, you can't blame a team for being in the playoffs. The Bears. I had them in 10 wins, 11 wins. I had them making the playoffs. So yeah, definitely.
It's because they got hot in preseason.
Exactly. So I was just off that preseason juice. I thought that Justin Fields was going to just, dominate this year. But what was important? All the time. What happened this year with his development? You said it. It was great. It was awesome. I think I one of the things I predicted in the preseason, I mean, it's not like the most craziest thing I've ever said, but I said he was going to have more passing touchdowns and interceptions, which he did. What I didn't expect was that he was going to establish himself as one of the elite running quarterbacks in the league. So that's cool too. But the most impressive, the biggest recap I guess you could give for the Bears is they ended up with the number 1 pick. They kind of did what they needed to do in terms of like tanking in a way, in a sense, right? But also they gave up a lot of players and they freed up a lot of cap space to make this offseason, this draft going into next year, one of the probably best positions to be in as the Bears organization. So season recap, they sucked on the field. They were close in a lot of games, but you saw Justin Fields become the quarterback of a franchise quarterback. You saw Khalil Herbert look good. You saw the rookies that Ryan Poles drafted look pretty solid in their playing time. So you got to give credit there, right? And they'll exceed it even more in terms of like what they do in the offseason and the draft. So they did really well. Real quick before we move on, I just want to get to Bill here. Bill joined the chat. No one will miss the Patriots. We were talking about the Patriots. No one is going to miss the Patriots.
Yeah.
Brady to the Vegas market would be insane. They'd be throwing in parades just for showing up. Agreed. And I left the bar at halftime. It was obvious what was going to happen to TCU. Yeah, TCU did not look good all game. But did you have anything else on the Vikings or the Bears?
Yeah, I'll just say with the Bears. And if it looks like I'm like texting, I'm actually looking at Bears stuff right now. So the Bears, I think what they need is a really good cornerback. They need to get like a stout corner. I look at the attempts though. This is what's interesting. Teams, they had the fewest attempts. So teams just like didn't run or throw the ball against the Bears. The Packers were the first least, and then the Bears 481 attempts on the whole year for the Bears, which usually is a sign that they're scared to like throw it on you guys. But then I saw you guys still were like 16th in yards that you given up. So not a lot of, not a lot of throws, but still giving up a lot of yards. And when it comes to yards per attempt, the Bears were the worst in the NFL, giving up 7.7 yards per reception. So defensively, yeah, I think that is an area that needs to be addressed. And I'm surprised it wasn't exploited more, to be honest, because those numbers don't really make sense of why are like, you understand, okay, Surtain, like Stingley, Gardner, these guys, few pass attempts because they don't want to challenge them. But the Bears giving up that much, I think you might have gotten like a little lucky that teams didn't exploit that more.
So I will say Jalen Johnson was hurt for a few games. And even when he was playing, they didn't throw to his side a lot. What do I think was the biggest weakness as far as corners was Kyler Gordon, the rookie. And I think that should be expected. As a rookie, you're not going to ball out, right? You're not, I mean, unless you're Sauce Gardner, like you're not going to ball out like he does, right? That's a special type of corner there. But I think he did okay. He got beat. He's going to get beat. And he also was hurt a couple games. I think that's what hurt us again as well. That you had to put in a lot of second string, third string guys there. But what I really think the Bears need is a pass rush, man. I feel like with a pass rush, other than the offensive line, the pass rush, defensive ends, the edges, you really need a good pass rush to make your secondary look good. Because we saw it with Eddie Jackson in 2018 when the pass rush was there, he was getting interceptions, he was getting past defenses, he was looking amazing. So I think if we're gonna focus on defense, I would rather focus on the edge defensive line or even the linebackers.
Yeah, I just don't understand. You have Khalil Mack and you gave up the kitchen sink to get him, right? Was it 2 firsts?
Yeah, something like that.
2 first-round picks to get Khalil Mack, and you had him for what, 2 years?
18, 19, 20, 21, 4.
Was it really 4 years? Damn.
Yeah.
So you have him for 4 years. It still feels like, hey, if I'm going to get rid of this guy, I need at least a first or I'm holding on to him. Because of what we gave up to get him. I mean, that could have been your guy. Maybe you win a couple more games with a Khalil Mack on your team.
Yes, I agree. I agree, but I just think it was like time to get the cap. It was time to get the cap money up. I think that's what it was for the Bears.
You have the most money in the NFL.
Huh?
You have the most money in the NFL. What do you mean?
That's what I mean. How do you think we got there? By giving up contracts like Khalil Mack's contract.
Well, Khalil Mack should be like the one guy that you kept.
Oh, I mean, sure, but I feel like we could go back and forth on that. It was a good thing and it was a bad thing. Like, it was a good thing because of the money. It was a bad thing because we lost a lot of leadership on that defense.
Yeah, maybe you could get a cheaper guy next year. It's just like, man, you gave up a lot for 4 years. That's like quarterback type capital. The GM should be fired for that, in my opinion.
That's why Ryan Pace was fired.
I did not know that. All right, so moving on, the Ravens and the Bengals. Ravens 10-7, playing for nothing. They're in the playoffs. They're playing the Bengals, who were playing for seeding. Unfortunately, there was no scenario where they could have the Ravens could have won the division. Just the way things worked out at the end. So the Bengals, I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch this game because it didn't have any playoff implications. I'll say the Ravens, I'm concerned. Yes. I have this deep gut feeling that the only reason that their nose has been above water is because of a guy named John Harbaugh. And I am almost 80% confident that if a Vic Fangio or a Josh McDaniels was coaching this team, we would have a 4 or 5 win team. And now here's my problem. Lamar Jackson's health. A guy that's been trying to get a contract for a really long time. So he goes into this year, not able to get, quick backstory, not able to get it done, doesn't want an agent. So, wants his mom to be his agent. So of course the deal doesn't get done. I mean, that's just like part of the NFL. There's nothing wrong with having an agent, but whatever, it's his money, it's his pockets. I'm not going to put my hands in another man's pocket, but unless we're playing pocket pool. So it's just to see him get injured again for when they played the Broncos week 14, 15, 16. I think it's been 5 games now. I think this hurts Lamar Jackson. If you're the Ravens a guy like Lamar keeps getting hurt. Now, we haven't seen ACL, gone for the year. We haven't seen
Mhm.
that like catastrophic Dak Prescott injury, but with the way he plays the game, he just gets banged up enough to be on the injury report, missing practice Wednesday, missing practice Thursday. Then on Friday press conference, he's going to be active for the game, but no one really knew. Then he goes out for the game, gets a little more dinged up. He's going to be out a
Mhm.
week, comes back, does the same process again, gets a sprained ankle. Like you're just seeing like this kind of like it happens once, it's just a coincidence, happens twice, it's a habit, happens 3 times, like we kind
It's a
of got
problem.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know, as much as I think when Lamar Jackson's healthy, he can be a top 5 quarterback. I've seen him go toe to toe with the best quarterbacks in the NFL,
Mhm.
and I've seen him win and come on the other side of that. And I've seen him prove the doubters wrong that say he's just a running quarterback. I've seen him be a passing quarterback and not rely on his legs. I've seen him just he's exceeded, I think, a lot of people's expectations, most probably everybody.
Yeah.
But his health, the best abilities, availability, if he's not able to actually play 80% of the season, I don't know if he's going to get that long contract. And it's hard for me to say the Ravens exceeded or they didn't
Mhm.
exceed with this type of injury, because it almost feels like I don't have all the pieces to make that call. When they
Mhm.
had Lamar Jackson, I would say they didn't exceed or go under. They did what I expected the Ravens to do, and that's win 85% of their football games with Lamar Jackson. When he wasn't on the field, their offense looked like complete garbage. They went from averaging
Yes.
28 points a game to not being able to score 17 points in their last 6 weeks. There's a huge problem when there's no Lamar Jackson.
Mhm.
Does that problem extend beyond Lamar Jackson? It seems like it. It seems like they don't have weapons in place, and maybe Lamar's getting hurt because he's doing too much. Getting those 28 points per game for Lamar Jackson requires
Yeah.
him to get banged up and to spin out of the pocket and do ridiculous stuff that
Mhm.
a quarterback with weapons wouldn't have to do. I don't know where the Ravens go from this. You pay him. Do you just get weapons? Honestly, this is probably the most competitive football team that has to ask these kinds of questions at this point. And the Ravens, with a healthy Lamar Jackson, they could win the playoffs. They could go to the AFC Championship game. They could beat Cincinnati in the
Mhm.
playoffs. They could with Lamar Jackson. With Lamar being out as long as they have, I'm not sure. The Bengals have done exactly what I thought they would do. Totally disrespected going into the season. Not even on the top 5 Super Bowl predictions after going to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is just a winner, and that's all he does, and that's all he knows. He
Yep.
said yesterday in a press conference, he said, what you do in your Super Bowl window is your legacy. And he said, my legacy depends on what happens in the next 4 years. And he takes this time very serious. And um, the Bengals, they did exactly what I thought as a person that believes in the Bengals. Most importantly, like I just believe in Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be wildly successful in the league.
Mhm.
99 overall in Madden in a couple years.
I I I have huge concerns about the Ravens. This is exactly why I want Justin Fields to get weapons around him. I don't want him to end up like Lamar. And it's a weird thing to say that in a negative connotation, because it's like, what do you mean? Lamar's is a former NFL MVP, right?
Right. I know
But
what
he
you
has
mean,
no.
though.
But
Beefier.
yeah.
No, like the
he,
Fields is more beef.
yeah, but he's also like, he doesn't have any weapons around him. He's got Mark Andrews and he's got Justin Tucker as his offense, and that's it. That is all he's got. Everything else is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson gets everything else done. He's putting up, like you said, 28 points on his own. He's negotiating his own contract, or his mom is, whatever the deal is. He's getting hurt consistently. It's starting to be like, dude, what's going on? Is this another Cam Newton situation where this guy was like, came in the league very, very good and then just completely drops off because of the hits he's taken, or the production is low and he has no weapons, this and that, right? It sucks because, like you said, if Lamar Jackson was on this team right now playing the last few weeks of the season, they'd be going into the playoffs like, watch out for the Ravens. Watch out for the Ravens. Um, they I think I had them winning the North, but obviously the Bengals did that because I had the Bengals not win the North. so that was funny.
Steelers.
Steelers, dude, they almost made the playoffs. It would have made my prediction so much better. But as far as the Bengals are exceeded my expectations 100%, right? Like I had them kind of falling off completely. And they didn't look great at the beginning of the season, but it doesn't matter. It's the end of the season and they're AFC North champs. It's literally all that matters. So good for them on the Bengals side. Joe Burrow looks like he's going to be a stud. Like you said, he's going to be very, very good in this league for a very long time, not just the next 4 years, for a very, very long time. And like you said, I can see the Bengals going to, it's going to be them or the Bills going up against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. And they're amazing. So
yeah,
the Ravens, we'll see what happens with them. I'm very worried about them.
Yeah, I mean, you have every right to be, and I don't know if it's going to be interesting. We talked about Jimmy Garoppolo, and we talked about Derek Carr, and we even talked about Tom Brady, but Lamar Jackson might be available.
Yeah, and that's so once we get into our playoff edition of our top 5, there will be a good discussion there.
Good. All right, let's go to the NFC
South, the most exciting game of the week, I think.
South.
AFC South.
AFC South. I was trying to find some. You say like NFC least. I wanted to do something, so I was like South, Mouth, Routh. I can't. I feel like the Cat in the Hat in the movie where he's trying to rhyme and he can't.
You could see Kyle's wheels turning in his head.
So hard. All right, so this is really the battle of the worst team in the NFL besides Arizona at this point. The Texans able to get that last-second field goal. What I like about this game, I believe that this was the highest scoring game collectively, 63 points scored between both parties.
Yeah.
They put up a fight. Both teams did. And it's really cool to see that when both teams have nothing to play for. We saw the Lions do that too. So it's just nice to see, like, the game still matters to people beyond what we think we know from our couch, picking on these guys. Oh, I could do that. No, you can't. You can't even get dressed in the morning. Like, shut up. Like, it's nice to see, especially even the college people, like, oh, the college is so much better. Once they get paid, they don't care anymore. Well, it looks like to me that they care a lot.
They gave a shit.
If you watch Hard Knocks, I think there's lots of shits being given in the NFL. Coaches, players. The only people safe are maybe the franchise quarterback, and the GM is not even safe. The owner is safe. That is, a lot of people that are constantly playing and fighting for their job. And then we saw, Kingsbury get fired today too. So like nobody's safe. And if you watch the Arizona Hard Knocks, I'll save that for the Kingsbury thing. But the Colts, they get Saturday. They had Frank Reich. They had Frank Reich, and he's apparently, from what I've heard, he's a really good coach. He just had a bad year. Things were not going very well for the Colts.
Yes.
I put a lot of blame on Matt Ryan. That when they made this trade for Matt Ryan, I said this exact phrase. This reminds me of when the Broncos got a washed up Joe Flacco. On paper, it looks awesome.
It looks so good.
Yeah, you're like, this guy's been in the Super Bowl. This guy, he knows what it's like to be a leader. He was under Kyle Shanahan, and you like Joe Flacco. You're like, this is a Super Bowl MVP. It's like, yeah, but now they're not. They're not anymore, and their style of offense doesn't translate to the new NFL. Like you see people like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is, I think, more mobile than Tom Brady at this point, but a lot more mobile. But still, like the NFL is trending to. If I'm going to scout a quarterback, I'm going to have on my list of questions, are you mobile? Right?
Yeah.
Like, can you do stuff with your feet? Not too much, because we don't want you to get hurt, but can you, if the pocket's collapsing, can you roll out and get to the sideline and beat out the linebacker with your top speed? That's what people want to see now. So I think both of these teams, they underperformed. Lovie Smith came out and they tied week 1 against the Colts. So this is the last game and the first game. It's like from start to finish, this is the game we had. They tied the first time and they nearly tied the second time. The problem is the first time they tied, we thought the Colts were awful. And then the second week, the Texans played the Broncos, and the Broncos barely got a win. And I was like, damn, the Texans are good. Didn't know the Broncos were bad at the time. And then week 3, the Texans, I believe they won. And then I was like, okay, Lovie Smith, they're going to show up and they're going to play hard. And then eventually they started just stacking L's over and over and over. And Lovie Smith fired. Jeff Saturday takes over for Frank Reich. And Reich. And he starts by beating the Las Vegas Raiders. His defense only gave up 20 points. He's the first coach in NFL history to literally talk shit in a tweet about the Raiders and then beat them the next week when he became hired. He had no idea that he was going to play the Raiders next week as the coach. And he was tweeting, the Raiders are so bad. It was hilarious. It's a good thing he won that game or he would have been trolling hard.
It's so bad.
Then the next week they play Philly and they only give up 17 points and almost beat Philly. I mean, Philly squeaked away with one. The next week they played Pittsburgh, gave up 24. And it was like, okay, so they've lost 2 of their 3 games. But they're they're playing hard for Saturday. And remember that Steelers-Colts game? We were like, I don't know. We were like, I don't know what to do with that. That's like, what Colts are we going to get? And then the next week they lost to Dallas and gave up 54 points. And then it just all fell off the table. I mean, this is how many points they gave up after that game. 54, 39, 38, and 31. And that is a collapse. And I would say even with me not believing in Matt Ryan, they completely underperformed because I, at the very bare minimum, thought they could pull together 7 or 8 wins just with Jonathan Taylor and their offensive line. It looks like when you watch the Colts that there's nothing that they do right. There's nothing that you look at and you're like, damn, like that's they're not a
good
very
NFL
good team,
play.
Like, hey man, at least they can run the ball effectively. Like nothing.
Yeah.
So
no. Jonathan Taylor was hurt. Like it was just all downhill for him.
Yeah. And I do think Jeff Saturday came out in his final presser and said, look, Saturday did not deserve to get that job as a head coach. There are guys like Jim Harbaugh, who was a star in the NFL at quarterback. And even when he wanted to go into coaching, he had to start with a low paying wage in the corner booth, doing, small stuff. And he worked his way up to Jim Harbaugh. He made himself that through hard work and dedication and consistency. Jeff Saturday just got thrown into it. It's none of my business about how it happened. I'm just saying it was never going to work ever because you can't. There's levels to it. And not just that, even if Saturday was a great coach, it doesn't happen like that. Like you can't just jump in and fix things. And that's why he said in his final press conference, if this was my team, I would do things a lot differently. I would make a lot of major changes. Obviously, he's trying to say the right things to keep his name available for maybe one more year to prove himself. I think if you're the owner of the Colts, if you're Jim Irsay and you went with Saturday, you have to give him another year. Or it was stupid. It was literally just stupid if you don't. You should have kept Frank Reich and just fired him at the end of the season if you don't have plans. I think maybe they just wanted to get Saturday's feet wet and then maybe go into the next season and sit down with him and have a real conversation. Hey, what are those things that you want to change? Like, what are the things you would do different? Because like no training camp, no OTAs, no say in anything. I mean, he was never going to succeed. And I'm not saying he will ever succeed, but we'll never know until he gets an actual opportunity. And, not that he deserves it, but that's not the point. The point is if he does deserve a chance to do it the right way, or it's almost like the owners kind of screwed him for the future if he wants to be a coach. Because now it's like he is known as the guy that came in and sucked, right? It's not even fair for him either.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be hard for him for Saturday to kind of get another gig, really. I think, like you said, there's levels to it. He needs to start kind of at the bottom, like a coordinator or a linebackers coach, something like
Offensive
that.
line coach would be ideal.
Yeah, it would definitely be his cup of tea there, right? But this Colts organization is just a mess from the things that happened with Reich, from signing Matt Ryan to what he said about Dan Snyder from the Commanders to hiring Saturday because it was more of a sentimental, let me try to get the fans on my side type of hire, is what it seemed to me. It was just a mess for the Colts. It sucked because their expectations were way higher. Didn't meet mine. Obviously, we had them as South winners. But it was just bad. It was just overall bad for the Colts. And then the Texans firing Lovie Smith after he won the game for him.
That is terrible timing.
It's fucked up. Not giving him another year. I feel like he's definitely a guy who deserves another year.
Why?
At least because he's showed that he's been pretty successful in the NFL, given, I think a better team than the Texans gave him. You got a guy for 1 year for what? To tank? And then what? Were you going to let him go either way or what? Like, I feel like Lovie Smith knew that and was just like, all right, you're going to fire me. All right, well then go fuck yourself. You don't get the number 1 pick. I'm going to win. Which was the most exciting win I think I've ever seen on the stream. When I was streaming that first slate on Sunday, it was amazing. But Texans have some good pieces to work off of on the offense and the defense too. So they, depending on what they do with the number 2 pick, I think they have to go quarterback here. I think, again, the Texans are going to get a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, and then start adding pieces here and there. And then eventually in about maybe 3-4 years, the Texans will be pretty decent and maybe not necessarily make a run for the AFC South because you got the Jaguars winning it. But I think they'll be up there as contenders with them and the Titans. So, but the Titans, I think by the time the Texans get up there, I think the Titans will be on a downturn. So it might just be Jags and Texans for the near future here in the AFC South.
Yeah, I had a picture somewhere of Lovie Smith since he got fired from the Bears. I mean, he's had like 19 and like 50. Like he hasn't like even hit 500. Yeah. I wasn't sure. I know he had a good year with the Bears and he got fired, and I do believe he got fired in like a bad term. Like, okay, so 10-win season, now I'm fired. That didn't make any sense to me either. Yeah. But I do think since he's proven that maybe I don't think he's done anything to be like, hey, we need him back in the league. And then 3 wins. I mean, it's like,
no, but
they might just want to get like a real coach, like somebody that's like Lovie Smith's old school. He's like, the NFL's trending in a different way. And I feel like it's basically like if you want to keep up, you just have to like bite the bullet. Like, you can say, no, I'm a defensive guy first. We're going to run the football and play old school ball. And then you're going to play the Bills and get routed. I think maybe I don't like if they fired Lovie Smith, they're going to get an offensive coordinator for their next job. It's going to be somebody I think they're going to stay away from defensive guys. This move is strictly to like, hey, let's get some offense going. So we'll see what happens. I know you're a little bipartisan there because
Lovie is our Jesus.
Lovie is your Jesus. So
he died for our number 1 draft
transgressions. So the Jets, Dolphins, Patriots lost, so a win gets the Fins in. That was awesome. Win gets Fins in, and they did get in, and they did it by barely winning. They won 6-11. It looks like one of those games where you just see the score and you're like, I'm not even gonna watch the highlights of that.
There are none.
Just ugly football. Looked really bad. The Dolphins are gonna get in. I don't know what's going on with Tua. I feel like that whole situation has just been like,
I don't know.
The cards have been just so close to the chest. Like, I can't get a feel for like, is Tua gonna play in the playoff game? Should he play in the playoff game? Like, is he medically okay to play in the playoff game? Like, I don't know what to do with the Dolphins right now. I'll say the Dolphins being in the playoffs, they're kind of right on where I thought they would be. They're 9-8. They made the playoffs.
Mhm.
In the beginning of the season, they exceeded my expectations. They beat the Bills, and they were at the time they were 4-0, and they were looking really good. And I was like, I
Yeah.
was prepared to come on this kind of an episode at the end of the year and say the Dolphins exceeded my expectations. But the relapse at the end of the season kind of puts me back in the middle. The Dolphins just kind of did what I thought they would, and I'm going to say the Jets exceeded my expectations.
The
I know it
Jets.
didn't. I know it didn't end the way they wanted to, but
Mhm.
Salah looks like he belongs. I liked his attitude after they played Jacksonville on Thursday night when they asked him about the playoffs, and he said it's not about playoffs right now. It's not. Um, and it just shows that he's not the kind of coach to kind of put the cattle in front of the horse. He's like,
Mhm.
we just have to play better football. And not even it's not about playoffs. You know what I mean? It was like the old school playoffs,
Playoffs.
and he was the Jets coach, right?
Playoffs.
It was the
Yeah.
Jets coach. I mean, hey, there might be something in the room. That's exactly what he said, just differently. No one will ever say
Playoffs.
it quite that way, but dude, seriously, I just put this together. Sorry, like on air, my mind is blown right now. That's exactly what happened.
Wheels turning. Wheels turning.
Um, so yeah, that's my opinion on this game. Jets overexceeded, Dolphins right on that line.
Yeah, the Dolphins. The Dolphins are a tough one. I feel like to evaluate because with Tua, with and without Tua, it's just a different Dolphins team. With Tua, they look outstanding. They look like offensively one of the best teams in the NFL. Offensively, right? Without Tua, they look just kind of sad. It's like you got Tyreek over here trying to make things happen, but he can't get a quarter. The quarterback he has can't throw it to him. Waddle is the same thing. Their running game looks better, but I mean it still isn't as effective enough to get them into the end zone. And you saw that in this game against the Jets. The Jets, to their credit, have a really good defense. So it's kind of tough to really evaluate it. But I mean, with two of this Dolphins team is so much better and definitely exceeded my expectations. The Jets, I think I had them fourth, so they didn't necessarily exceed or underperform. They were right. They were exactly right where I had them. But the beginning of the season did have me a little bit like, oh, Zach Wilson, here we go. Maybe something's happening here. And like you said, give a lot of credit to Salah, because if it wasn't for him and his decision making with Mike White and with Zach Wilson, they would be nowhere near a shot at the playoffs, right? It's Zach Wilson seems to be a very, very bad player at
He
this
was
point.
always a bust to me.
Yeah.
He had a good pro day. That's literally it. He had a good pro day, and he did some things that made people think he could be Patrick Mahomes. And I said it to you that one time, and you died laughing. I was like, he looks like if Patrick Mahomes got blackout drunk and started playing football. Like he's like trying to still do the same things, but it's just not working. Like sidearm and then totally he's like look passing and hitting the ref. It's like,
the Jets, I don't know where the Jets are going, man. It's they got a good coach. They just need a quarterback. If Mike White played the way Mike White played when he had his first start this entire season, and they played him instead of Zach Wilson, this team would be going to the playoffs right now instead of the Dolphins.
Yeah, and they're gonna have plenty of options to choose from this
offseason.
Oh yeah. So yeah, dude, we're gonna when we go into next season and we do our predictions, we're gonna be like, I fully believe we're gonna be like every team's gonna be good.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because the teams that don't have a quarterback will have one, and then teams like the Jets will get one that the other ones are getting rid of. Like we've never had this many good quarterbacks, and it's going to be more true next year. It's crazy, man. So you said the Jets, you had them fourth, but did you have them fourth? I know they finished last, but did you have the last place team having 7 wins? That's the real question.
I mean, probably not that I could really I mean, I had the Bears at 10 wins or 11 wins, something like that. So I don't know what the hell I had the Jets at. The Jets, I probably had it like 3-4 wins, probably like what the Bears ended up with.
Well, if you had the Jets at the Bears at 10 wins, you probably had the Jets at like 12.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, Zach Wilson this year is going to be amazing. Steelers to the Super Bowl. I don't care. Mitch Trubisky, Super Bowl winning quarterback. So yeah, I had him fourth. I didn't think they'd get 7 wins, but I mean, also like they had a really good beginning of the season. So
that's fair. Our next game, 2 7-win teams, Panthers at Saints. 2 playoff teams that did not make the playoffs, or 2 non-playoff teams. The Panthers won 10-7. Definitely not going to discuss this game. I know nobody wants to, so we'll just talk about the Saints. Obviously, no Sean Payton. I don't know really what to make of this team. There's really nothing that you can say that they're like. The Panthers look better after they fired their coach. That might be something there. Sam Darnold, is he the guy? I don't like any of these teams. I know that's like weird to say, but it's like not even fun on a sports show to like sit here and talk about these 2 teams. Like,
it's really not, dude. The Saints suck. The Panthers kind of okay with Sam Darnold now. I don't know. There's nothing fun, like you said, about any of these teams. There's nothing really to look forward to for any of these teams other than they have a top 15 pick or something like that. You know, they can get decently better, but they're just going to have to move a lot of things around. Taysom Hill, who knows what's going to happen to him? Is DJ Moore going to be in the future plans for the Panthers? What's going to happen with the Saints wide receiver? What's his name? Chris Olave. He seems like he's a stud. He seems like he's a wide receiver 1 in the making. So what happens to what's his name? Thomas from the Saints.
Yeah, Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas. Do they trade him for some draft capital? Do they trade him for players? Because it looks like Chris Olave is going to be a wide receiver 1 soon in this league. So there are definitely things that if you're a fan of this team, you're like, why aren't they talking about this? Why aren't they talking? Because nobody gives a shit, man. Nobody cares about the Panthers or the Saints. I'm sorry, but I don't care about either of these teams. None of these teams these teams are in limbo right now as far as the NFL goes. They are not the worst teams, and they are nowhere near the best teams. They're just right in the middle of mediocrity.
Yeah, and the Panthers, when they traded CMC, it was like, what are you doing? Like, CMC to me is one of those guys that was like generational.
Yeah.
He will be like a very good player for a long time. Just people you don't get rid of. And if you do, how did you not get a 1st-round pick for CMC? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know if it was you that I said, or I think there's some underground, like a phone call being made on the side. Like, I have no idea. I was saying that maybe teams like, let's say John Lynch, the GM of the Niners, was like, I'll give you $100,000 if you accept this trade, and like it's under the table type stuff.
Yeah.
And it sounds conspiracy, but what am I supposed to make of CMC getting traded for a 3rd? Like a couple 3rd-round picks and a 4th?
Mm-hmm.
You know, for CMC, it doesn't make any sense. So the Carolina Panthers, they've requested to interview Jim Caldwell, former Lions and Colts head coach, Ken Dorsey, the Bills OC, Ben Johnson, the Lions OC, Frank Reich, former Colts, we just talked about him, and Shane Steichen, Eagles OC, and Steve Wilkes, Panthers interim coach. So usually the interim coach will get one out of respect. So it's weird. They ranked the best, sexiest jobs available for head coaching right now. Carolina's number 1.
No way.
Yeah, and Denver's not even number 2 or number 3. They're dead. No, Texans are last. They're second to last. They have the Colts as a better place to go. The Cardinals is a better place to go. And the Panthers. I know I'm like wearing like the jersey, but like how is it better to be in North Carolina with that team than to be in Denver with, you know, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and like real dudes? I just don't get it. And they have reached out to Harbaugh as well, and the Broncos are competing for that. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, I agree with you. there, even in this article, it talks about Tom Brady having an opportunity to get Tom Brady in Carolina. I'm like, is there like another Panthers team that I'm not watching?
There's got to be some shit going, like you said, on the underground, like some talks on just the low key side of the NFL. Like, hey, if you come here, this person will come here, they'll do this, blah, blah, blah.
Why would Tom Brady want to go to Carolina?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Dude, I read this and I was like, I feel like a person that knows nothing about football just reading a random article. Yeah. Like, I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. How is that the best destination in Tom Brady's coming?
That's the type of article you read that just like you are insulted that they wrote this.
Yeah. And yeah, this is on the NFL app, so you guys can go ahead and read it too. Insane. But we'll move on to the Browns Steelers. Browns getting Deshaun Watson in the offseason. We knew that he was going to be suspended for exactly 11 games because the NFL didn't want to miss out on a major market game with Deshaun Watson returning to Texans because money was more important than ethics. So we have Deshaun Watson kind of not coming into form, and then he looked like Deshaun Watson in the last game. The last couple of games threw 3 touchdown passes. Like he looks like he's getting it back, and I knew it was going to take a little bit. And this first season, he might have been suspended for the whole season. So the owners, this whole thing was a wash. And if anything, it's icing on the cake that he got to go get those reps in and at least start the next year, not needing that 7-week period that he just had to get the dust off. I'm sure because of the offseason, it might still be like 1, 2, or 3 weeks, but maybe by like week 5, he's starting to like, oh, damn, like Deshaun Watson's back. So the Steelers, I'm impressed. They did what they needed to do to get in the playoffs, at least in this scenario. It's just Miami won. If they missed that 51-yard field goal, the Steelers are in the playoffs instead. So that was a clutch kick, which we didn't mention. I just want to say shout out to Dolphins kicker. The Steelers, Kenny Pickett looked really good to me for a rookie to come in after I think it was week 4 that he took over. And there was Mitch Trubisky got benched week 4 and they had, I think, a 1-3 record or something like that. So Kenny Pickett has gone, probably like 8-5 or something like that as a starter. And I'm just impressed with a rookie quarterback on any team that can do that. It's hard to win in the National Football League when you're a rookie quarterback and you're thrown into fire. And Mike Tomlin is great. I think they're going to stick with Kenny Pickett. I think these are 2 teams that will have the same quarterbacks going into the next season. And I think the Browns, I hate to keep saying like they did what I thought they do but I just don't want to lie for the sake of lying. I knew this season was going to be a wash, and it was. And then the Steelers, I'm going to say they overperformed my expectations because I didn't think that they would be competing for a playoff spot. I really looked at Roethlisberger retiring, and I thought this was going to be a transition year, and they transitioned pretty damn smoothly, in my opinion.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, TJ Watt. That team's going to be really good in the future. And Najee Harris better step it the fuck up. Because if he's not,
I'm drafting him next year again.
Because he's the only thing right now where it's like, if you're not as good as these guys are going to be, if you're not your rookie year, how you were your rookie year, you're done, dude. You're getting released. You're going to another team. You're going to have to sign, prove it for another team. That's how it's going to be for Najee Harris. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, never under 500 for like the 100th year in a row or something like that. Mike Tomlin is such a good coach. Such a good coach. Everyone just says great things about Tomlin. And here he goes proving it again that, hey, my coaching is going to get this team to compete for playoffs. And that's exactly what they did. There was a shot. There was a shot, and they're 9-8. They were 9-8. That's how they finished the season. So good for them. The Browns, like you said, it was a wash of a season. Had Watson, let's just say, for example, been suspended only 5 games, we might be seeing a different story about the Browns, because he played every single game he played in, he got a little bit better. He got up to speed with what the NFL speed is, right? Like that's what it looked like to me is, oh, okay, now this first game, he looks like shit. Oh, second game, yeah, he did a little bit better. Oh, third game, no, looks pretty good now. Now he was starting to get in a rhythm. It is what it is with Sean Watson. He was using Amari Cooper a lot. Amari Cooper looks to be pretty damn good for Cleveland right now. And Njoku, 1,000 yards. And Njoku looks good, is a nice tight end threat there. Chubb, you got Kareem Hunt, you got Myles Garrett there. Jadeveon Clowney is no longer going to be a Brown, so that's probably a bad thing. They're still, depending on what Lamar Jackson does this offseason, they're probably still the fourth best team in the AFC North. And I mean, this is a division that, again, depending on what happens with Lamar in the offseason, could be one of the best divisions in football coming up this year. Or not this year, sorry, in the future.
Well, you mean this year, right? Like 2023.
Yeah, in the future, I don't know about 23. I don't know if the Browns are going to necessarily be there yet. And again, it all depends on what happens with the Ravens. And
okay.
Lamar.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. But there was one thing I don't agree with when you said Najee Harris has to get it together. I think Najee Harris in the last 4 weeks of the season was like, I mean, I watched those games and he runs really hard. He was the best player on the field for the Steelers. In the last 4 games that I saw. I think Najee Harris his job security is as secure as it could be, but we don't disagree on much. So when you said that, I was like, I'm not going to cut him off, but I'm going to mention it because there may be people listen there like, I think Najee Harris is safe, and then might be people like you said that think if he doesn't do good next year, he's going to get kicked to the curb. So you think if he doesn't, what would be under success if he gets like less than 1,000 yards next year? They're gonna give him the boot.
I mean, probably, yeah.
Well, they'll let him finish his rookie contract.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they will. What I think is like he has to be. There was games where he just was a non-factor, and it was like, where's Najee? Where's the rookie Najee Harris that everyone loved, right? Like if he becomes a non-factor in that offense and everything else is going really well for the Steelers, and he's the only, like, the running game is starting to look like dog shit, then it's like, all right, Najee, thanks for your time, but see ya.
I think that the O-line also just started getting it together towards the end of the season, and that was something missing all year for the Steelers. But we'll see if they can keep that chemistry going into the next year. If so, I don't want to talk about fantasy, give away my secrets, but I have Najee Harris as a major fantasy comeback. Our next game is the Giants and the Eagles. The Giants, they played their second stringers and the Eagles didn't. And the Eagles, it was a competitive game at the end of the game. The Giants had to kind of score at late and then try an onside kick that they didn't get. I'm going to say, though, I was a little concerned because you're Jalen Hurts playing with second string. Why is it 16-22? Why is this not 38-7? So first game back, maybe it's a good thing that he played and they didn't rest him. So he was extremely healthy. Maybe he needed this game I watched the game. He looked great. Just, a couple things to tweak here and there to get more points. And the Giants, they're going to go into the playoffs now. They're going to play the Vikings. They just played the Vikings and it was a close game. Dabble's going to have them ready. The Giants extremely exceeded my expectations this year. I did not have the Giants as a team that would be in the playoffs. Even when they were in the playoffs, I had them as a team falling out of the playoffs. That's how much I just didn't believe in them. And the reason is because they won their first 6 weeks of football. I think they only lost like one game. And they did that by running the football. But once they shut down the run, teams figured it out. They're like, hey, let's just stop the run. Daniel Jones can't beat us passing the ball. And then they lost, like 5 out of 6 games or something like that and got back to 500. And then they started doing some stuff with Daniel Jones that was different, kind of using him as a weapon, fake handoff, pass, run, option, whatever. So now the Giants are kind of like, I feel like they're getting ready on the way. Like sometimes you tell your wife like, hey, we're going somewhere and you're running out of time, and they put the mirror down and they start doing makeup in the car. Like sometimes you got to get ready on the way. And I
Yeah.
think the Giants are getting ready on the way, and we'll just have to wait and see. They definitely exceeded my expectations. The Eagles, um, they were who I thought they were. They were who I thought they were. Um, I believed in Jalen Hurts. I believed in the Eagles. That roster is a powerhouse roster.
Yeah.
There was no reason that it shouldn't have worked unless something unforeseen would have happened. So I'm happy that that didn't happen. I like to see quarterbacks find success, especially young guys. Jalen Hurts, I think he's going to be an elite quarterback in the league. I think there's no reason that you won't see him playing in February. So the Eagles are in good shape for the future, not like the short future, but the far distant future. The Eagles are going to be in good shape.
Real quick, we got Bill. Been waiting for this part, talking about the Giants.
Yeah, I knew. I knew. That's. I hope I did it. Did right by you, Bill.
Watch, we're gonna see as soon as we're done with this, Bill's gonna log off. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Bill. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Giants, like you said, very surprising start to the season, 6-1 or 6-0, like you said, something like that. And it looked like they figured it out. They figured Daniel Jones out. Hey, let's use him as a weapon. Hey, we don't really, we're not necessarily gonna have him as our franchise quarterback. So let's kind of use him with what he's good at now, pair him up with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had a revival of a season. And we'll be fine. And that's what we've been doing. Dable looked like a coach of the year candidate early on in the season.
Yes.
And they definitely exceeded my expectations, at least from our preseason shows, right? Like we were like, I'm pretty sure we were like, the Giants, no way, they're not going to be that good. The Cowboys have this, or I'm sorry, the Eagles and the Cowboys are probably going to be top two. The Eagles with the better record and whatnot, but the Giants came out of nowhere and we're like, hey, remember us? Remember the Giants? We're a good team. We've got Saquon. We got a pretty solid defense. Let's see what you guys can do. And they were able to show off their offensive skills with the weapons that they have, and the utilization is what was really impressive on Dable's part. So he did a really good job there. As far as the Eagles, kind of what we expected for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the best NFC quarterbacks. Like you said, he's going to be an elite NFC young quarterback for the rest of the 2020s. He's going to be very good. He's going to be like, when you look at the AFC playoffs, you got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, you've got Burrow, you've got Herbert, you've got Tua, you've got Trevor Lawrence. Every single one of those quarterbacks, you're like, God damn, that is the sexiest quarterback lineup I've ever seen, right? When you look at the NFC, it's like, okay, yeah, Jalen Hurts for sure. The Tom Brady, yeah, absolutely, he's a legend, right?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, sure, I guess, like whatever, he looks good.
He's all right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, he's okay. But Jalen Hurts is going to lead the NFC quarterbacks in the playoffs, I think, for the future, as long as Tom Brady doesn't have like a second career revival. You know what I mean?
Right. He might.
Hey, he might. The Eagles pretty much met expectations. There was a couple games there when they did go defeated against the Commanders that one week, and we were like, oh no. I feel like there was a slight panic, but also like, it's nothing, right? Like this is just it had to happen. There was no way they were going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
So it happened, but I think the Eagles are going to be one of the better teams in the NFC, close to what the Bills and the Chiefs are in the AFC, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say also with the Giants, he said, I'm so happy that Bill's still here and didn't log off right away. With the Giants, offensively, They're ranked 17th in yards per game, which is like middle, right? 15 would be, or 16's middle, so just one below middle. And then they're 4th in rushing yards per game. So the Bears are number 1 and the Giants are number 4. So super balanced offensively, but 25th defensively in yards per game. So an average offense, maybe an above average offense when you consider that they're middle and top 5 in one area. And then, defensively might be where they fall off.
Yeah.
I got to pee really quick.
No worries. I was gonna pull up Bill's comment. All good. Didn't have too high expectations myself. Saquon staying healthy has been a plus. Glad we're in the dance, if even for a little while, to get the guys the postseason experience. Definitely agree. The experience for a lot of these guys, a lot of these improving guys too on the Giants, especially the wide receiving core, is going to be very, very helpful for them in the future. Eagles surprised me. I didn't know what kind of monster they created. I will say while I did say that they met expectations for us in the preseason, I didn't expect the Eagles to be this damn good. They exceeded expectations in that sense because I really thought the Cowboys were going to give them a run for their money in the division. I thought maybe the Cowboys were going to be a little bit better, but yeah, you're right. The Eagles have created a monster, like you said, for sure.
That is fair. Defensively too. They're San Francisco's number 1 in defensive yards per game, holding them to a few yards. Number 2, the Eagles.
Yeah, there you go. Next game, next set of teams up, we have the Cowboys at the Commanders. Cowboys taking the loss, the rough loss against the Commanders. A lot of people are like, what's going on here? Kyle, what did you have on these Cowboys Commanders teams?
I'm sick of the Cowboys. When they were playing well, it was fun to watch, and especially because I had CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team and Zeke. That always kind of adds an extra oomph to the winning and the points. You're like, oh yeah, man, they just they're not. Dak Prescott's not that good. I've come to the conclusion that Dak Prescott is literally Kirk Cousins. And I just don't know if that is going to be ever enough. And it's just you have Justin Fields. So, okay, I'd rather be a bad team and know I have an elite quarterback than be a good team and know that it'll never get better than good.
Yeah.
And it just feels like with Dak Prescott, it's if everything's going right and they're running the ball effectively with Pollard and Zeke, then they can win in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. But it seems like teams are starting to figure that out, and they're preventing that from happening. And now Dallas is just kind of pretty stagnant for the last couple weeks now. Haven't been able to win a lot of games, haven't been impressive. The Commanders, a team not in the playoffs, nothing to prove, just literally, I don't know if the Cowboys got more than 5 first downs in the game. I'm not even kidding.
There was a point where they didn't get any first downs for an entire quarter or something
the whole
like
third
that.
Quarter they had no first down.
That was insane.
It's dude, what are you gonna do? This is the Commanders' defense. They're a good defense. They're third in point and yards per game, but number 2 and number 1 are also in the NFC, and you're gonna have to play one of them. It's either gonna be the 49ers or Philly. And to me, when I look at Dallas, it's okay, if you ask me, what do you think about Dallas? I'm going to say, well, what do you mean? Do I think Dallas is going to win a playoff game? Maybe. Is it going to matter? No, it's not. Because eventually they're going to play Philly or they're going to play the 49ers. And I've been wanting to say the same phrase. I almost said it yesterday. And you're like, say it. And I didn't want to again.
Say it.
I don't know. Get their shit pushed in.
And canceled.
It seems wildly inappropriate. That's why I didn't. Yeah. But it's very aggressive, and I'm trying to prove a point here. They're gonna get beat very bad when they go against one of these teams, and if they do happen to beat one of them, right? It's not like I'm gonna be like, oh man, I was wrong about the Cowboys. I'm going to be like, okay, that just proves my point. They are literally so flaky. Sure, they beat the Eagles, Let's not pretend like we all knew it could happen unless you're a Cowboys fan who's been in denial for the last decade about Dak Prescott. I mean, this is it's frustrating too because I don't like not having like a grasp on teams.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I mean, I couldn't imagine being a Cowboys fan because it's just like the hype gets so high with Dallas. It gets so high. I mean, even me, I think I had him number 2 on my top five. I had them at number 2 at one point in the season. And that's what's mad. It's like I'm also mad at myself. Like I let myself get to a point where I really considered the Cowboys being potentially the second best team in the NFL. No way. And I would say they exceeded my Gosh, I keep saying the same thing. I don't think they exceeded, but they didn't fall underneath either. I really mean that, though. There'll be a couple.
I was gonna say this is the perfect example of what the Cowboys are. The Cowboys are, if the fans and the entire NFL fan base was a woman, and the Cowboys were a guy having sex with you, you would be right at climax, and then they'd pull out.
Yeah. Or like
Bill said, beer run back and forth, not abandoning you. You better not, Bill. I swear to God, I'll hunt you down.
Yeah, it's like it's not like a total loss. It's like going home, after a night out and getting a hand job. It's like it's a hand job, but
it's not what you wanted, but
yeah. I mean, that's what the Cowboys are. That was a great way to
fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely worse things that can happen. I don't know. The Cowboys, when I saw that game against the Commanders, I was just kind of like, dude, I'm tired of picking them to win, and I'm not going to anymore. There's something that has changed. The Cowboys are not the Cowboys that I had number 2 in my power rankings.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush, he handled this team extremely well for 5-6 weeks. And when Dak came in, I think they tried to do a lot of the same stuff. It's not broke. They don't fix it. But the Dak is so just kind of been careless with the ball. He's got more picks than anyone. He didn't play half the year almost. Yeah. How do you have most picks in the NFL? So the Commanders, I didn't have them being good. I'll say they exceeded my expectations because I thought that they could have ended up with about 4 or 5 wins, and I wouldn't have been shocked. They had a playoff spot for the majority of the season. And yeah, they exceeded my expectations along with the Giants. I didn't have those 2 teams ever in a playoff picture. And just 2 weeks ago, if the season ended, they would have both went in. So Commanders exceed expectations. The Cowboys, I'm not falling for it, but they're not terrible.
It's it's 9 p.m. here on the West Coast, so Kyle and I are getting naughty now with what we were saying about the Cowboys. The Cowboys again.
Not for kids.
Not for kids, YouTube, not for kids. So yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it for the Cowboys. There's nothing I disagree with. We both had them in our top 5 pretty high up at one point, and we were like, this might be a little different, but also Dak Prescott can just be a dumbass sometimes. And that's kind of what it's been getting at these last couple of weeks during the end of the season. We're like, which Cowboys team are we getting? I feel like you could say that about a few teams in the playoffs. Like, which Chargers team are we getting? Which Cowboys team are we getting? Which Seahawks team are we getting?
Which Vikings team are we getting?
Which Vikings team? And it seems to all be in the NFC, really.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's why the NFC is like, I can do AFC easy. I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The NFC is like...
It's a wild card. Literally a wild card. So yeah, the Cowboys, that's kind of what they are. They are up and down. They get you there, but they never really get you to climax. You never finish. The Commanders definitely exceeded the expectations. The only thing is, I wish they would stop with Carson Wentz, man. I don't know what Rivera was thinking, putting Wentz, like, honestly, yeah, I mean, that's a fireable offense right there, putting Wentz in instead of Heineke. What are you doing?
And then when it comes down to, okay, Carson Wentz was really bad, we're not going to play him. How about you put Heineke back in? It's like he doubled down on how stupid that decision was by going with whatever his name is. That's the point.
Howell, whatever his name is.
Okay,
it's so dumb.
I was wrong about Carson Wentz, Howell, get your helmet. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What about the guy that won 7 out of 8?
And what's crazy to think is that Ron Rivera, and I don't think it's crazy to think, but it's just like crazy to think how the levels they go on their ego. I think everyone in the NFL has an ego. I don't think it's a bad thing, right? Because it's like that's a confidence thing, right? Like you're confident in your decisions. But Ron Rivera, man, like you said, he was like, let me double down on this stupid ass decision because I'm a NFL head coach and I'm very good at what I do or something like that. I don't know. Well, it was bad.
I think the ego is a good thing, but at the same time, it was like when Nathaniel Hackett turned over play calling duties and he sat down with the team and he said, I will do anything to get this team to win, including forfeiting playing calling duties. They said he can't manage a clock. He hired Jerry Rosberg. He humbled himself time and time again. And love or hate the guy, I respect that. I respect somebody that is like, hey, I screwed up. That's leadership 101. If you can't
admit that point, what are you doing then?
No. That's why he's fired.
Yeah.
That's why he was fired. But I'm saying it was the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do once in a while to admit your mistakes. Because what message are you sending to the team? That you would rather be right or stubborn? Because we all know you're wrong. You'd rather be wrong and dig your toes in the sand than give this team a chance to win the playoffs because you benched a player against the best defense in the NFL. When everybody looks terrible against the Niners.
We'll get to the Broncos here in a bit. I just want to show Bill's comment. The Cowboys never get you there.
Yeah.
Fact. But yeah, I mean that's kind of all I had for the Cowboys and Commanders. If we want to move on to Chargers at Broncos, the Broncos won this one though. They look good in this one. Although sometimes it was a little bit like bad, a little loud. We'll see. So the Broncos won this one. I'm going to go first, Kyle, because I want to let you rip it in the Broncos. The Chargers in the playoffs, Herbert, it's tough to tell with this team too, because again, there's another team that we've been like, which team are you going to get? This one or the bad one or the good one? Which Herbert are you going to get? The one who's passing for 4 or 5 touchdowns a game or the one who can't really even get the ball off, right? Right. Who knows? But the Chargers and Staley, man, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's the coach for the Chargers. I don't know if he's the guy that should coach the Chargers anymore. But he's gotten them to the playoffs this year. And that's more than you can say from last year. So it is an improvement. It is just a step above of an improvement. He's in the playoffs. We'll see how he does in the playoffs. It's going to be a wild card for him. But the Chargers, I think, had a successful-ish season. In a what was expected to be a pretty tough division. They were in the playoffs a couple weeks ago. So they actually kind of were better off than a lot of teams were coming into week 18. The Broncos, for me, I think I had third or fourth. So they didn't necessarily underperform as far as division standings for me in the preseason. They completely underperformed offensively. Like just offensively, like I did not expect this defense to be as good as it was, but I definitely didn't expect for this offense to be as bad as it was. So that's kind of what I have to say about the Broncos. Russ Wilson looked bad. Nathaniel Hackett is gone. Obviously, that's kind of what I said before about the defense and the offense, kind of what led to the Nathaniel Hackett firing, and a lot of the things where he was just like, yeah, I'm not good at play calling. Yeah, I'm not good at clock management. Yeah, I'm not good at this. Yeah, he humbled himself to getting fired is all I'll say. But that's kind of what I got on the Chargers and Broncos. Kyle, take it away.
All right, so there's like 4 things I want to hit. The first thing is Staley. There's no seed that they could have improved. They were locked in at their seed at number 5 or 6, whatever it is. They said, hey, if Baltimore loses to Cincy, the Chargers are going to play, because if they win, then they could jump Baltimore or whoever. There would be a reason to play for seeding. So all the Bronco players are in the locker room. They just get done with their pregame. They're looking at the thing, and they're like, okay, the Bengals won. And then the fans are even on Broncos Twitter like, I wish we could have gotten the starters for the Chargers to have a competitive game to win. But understandable, nothing to play for. Then they go out and see that their starters are all warming up. Derwin James, Mike Williams, Eckler. I mean, everybody is playing in this game. So then they go back to the locker room, and this is the moment where you go, we're a fucking tune-up game. That's what we are. When Appalachian State plays Alabama in week 1, that game is a tune-up game to catapult you forward into the postseason.
Yep.
So now, I mean, as a man, as like a person with pride, it's like, we are not going to be a tune-up game.
Yeah, we're not going to be somebody's bitch.
Yeah, they just came into Mile High, and we're going to kick their ass. And we're going to do it with Jerry Rosburg or whoever it is. And the Broncos did not disappoint. I mean, they had 3 touchdown passes. They ran the ball effectively. They played really good defense. Justin Simmons had a strip sack. I mean, it was a complete win. It was a team win, and it just showed you almost beat the Chiefs last week, came within 3, then they beat the Chargers. It almost feels like, is like, why does this team look way different after Nathaniel Hackett was gone? And it looks night and day different. And Jerry Rosburg, I just don't understand the decision by Staley, and then I'll move on from that. Like, I understand momentum's a real thing, but you know what is also a real thing? Having Justin Herbert in the playoffs. Mike Williams left the game because he injured his back. You know, the x-rays are negative. It was just back spasms. But the point is like, what are you doing? Like, if it's halftime and you're not in the game or you're not winning the game, maybe pull him at halftime. The announcers were like, I can't believe Justin Herbert. It's the third quarter. Why is Justin Herbert? The announcers were like, I'm going to ask you, you used to play in the NFL. Like, do you know why they're out there? And he's like, I have no idea at this point what they're doing out there. And it was like,
it was weird. It was so weird.
It was weird. And this goes back to the stubborn thing. It's like, no, I played my starters. So how is this for a tune-up game? You go into Mile High with your starters in a game you should have played your backups, and you get beat. I mean, talk about confidence. Now this is like the opposite, right? Mike Williams is hurt, and you guys couldn't beat the Broncos. Have fun in the playoffs. Go Jags. So like, I don't understand that portion of it. Obviously, the Broncos look a lot better. Nathaniel Hackett I think he overthought things. He overcomplicated things. He was just in his head too much. Jerry Rosburg, you know, he's like 65 years old. He's an old school guy, very loving, very caring. And he had the team playing totally different football. So Jerry Rosburg, they were asking him in his last press conference about his connection with Harbaugh. And he said, we're so close that we call ourselves like family. He said, family is a lucid term, fluid term that gets tossed around. He's like, we are literally family. I'm best friends with Jim and John's dad. And this is what's crazy is that there was just a former Harbaugh associate that came out speaking on anonymously. And he said, if Denver offers Jim Harbaugh a job, he will take it. In my opinion, he will flat out take the job. So and the roots go so deep because the Greg Penner ownership group that the Broncos have, they were in Stanford. So they went to Stanford, and so did Condoleezza Rice. And Jim Harbaugh was the head coach of Stanford. They're like really, really close. And Jerry Rosburg, who's our interim head coach, is literally family. Like they were there when Jim's daughter was born. They were in the hospital. So, like there's like literally this feeling that Denver's going to bring in Jim Harbaugh, and it's going to be like a real family from the owner down. The owner, and then it's going to work, right? It's like a one big family reunion in Denver, and I didn't know all of these connections. So I think Denver definitely underperformed. I had them winning maybe 12 games this year. I don't see why this same team, if they didn't change anything besides get healthy, could win 12 games next year. This is a loaded roster. This is a team in a window right now. People don't know it because they didn't show it, but I know who's on this team. I know what they're capable of. We haven't even seen it yet. But when you follow a team and you know the caliber, like Jerry Jeudy, he just started. He had like 200 yards receiving yesterday. I mean, these are some real like ballers. Jerry Jeudy was an amazing receiver. He's really fast. He's good at running routes. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick's coming back. Like, we're gonna have our running back with Javonte Williams back. I mean, this team is the best destination if I was a head coach to go to over the Panthers. Come on. And I think as much as they underperformed this year, I think there's only one way to go. And I think that they're going to be a playoff team next year. And I think they underperformed more than any team underperformed in the NFL. The Broncos were the biggest disappointment. And that's not just because I'm a fan. It's like the expectations are to go to the playoffs. We heard all year they're a quarterback away. They got Russell Wilson. I literally cried. I was like, it's over. 6 years of missing the playoffs. It's over. And then, we have a 5-win season again. And it's like, wait,
fuck.
Yeah. So that is,
we suck again.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Just being like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, 4 months ago, I had tears of joy, and now I have tears of sadness. Like, we're trying to figure out how to get rid of Russ potentially. Like, what is going on? And then for the Chargers, I would say they outperformed my expectations because the Raiders were the ones that made the playoffs last year. The Broncos were supposed to be tough. They were going to have to beat the Broncos twice, and the Raiders twice, and they had to play the Chiefs. And there's a lot of really tough games in there. And I thought the Chargers were, gosh, it's just another one of those teams where I'm picking that they outperform, so I don't say they did what I thought they would do again. I don't want to do it again, but this is the Chargers. I would say I think you would agree with me that they were pretty much right about what we expected. This is a good football team with a top 5 quarterback. If you can get some real pieces in this team, like get them healthy, number one, and get Staley the hell out of there, then this team could be. I mean, dude, I don't think we may have the best quarterback division ever in history. If Justin Herbert, I mean, he's really good, man. A lot of people don't realize how good he is. They're about to figure it out. But Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and if Tom Brady comes in the division or someone like that, this is going to be a good division. It didn't happen this year. It'll happen next year. But
I do want to say for the Broncos, I'm going to say it now. The Broncos are going to have probably one of the best rushing games next year, top 5 with Javonte Williams coming back. I think they have a top 5 rushing offense next year. I hope the passing game follows suit. I hope Russ Wilson becomes better, but I just what Javonte Williams was about to do this year, I think was going to be really, really impressive. So I think next year he's got it. I think next year he's got it for sure.
His injury though was so complicated. He may not be ready to start week 1.
Really?
Yeah, and you see a lot of running backs come back from these injuries in their first.
And I take it back.
Their first season back, they're like kind of there, kind of not. They're just held themselves, and then their second year, it's like boom, they're really bad.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna happen, but they may bring in another guy, and Javonte may be like RB2, which is a really damn good RB2. So we'll see what happens there. But that's the Broncos. We're gonna get Jim Harbaugh. I'm pretty sure about that. There's just too many connections there. Connections are, dude. I would be stoked if we got Sean Payton. I think when it comes to bias, it's gonna be the people that you're family with. Hey, it's like, why did this guy get the job? Well, they went to college together. They saw the same stuff in the same town. They can have nostalgic moments together. They
had a gay experience together.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be coming down to that. Maybe they want to repeat it. Whatever. Hey, remember wouldn't it be fun if we just.
We're so naughty. Next game up, we got the Rams at the Seahawks. The Seahawks needed to win this game. That's exactly what they did to continue their playoff hopes, which eventually got them in the playoffs. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Rams, biggest underperformers. You say the Broncos are your biggest underperformers. I think the Rams are. And yes, they lost Von Miller. They were coming off a Super Bowl, right? I think we had them winning the NFC West during our preseason picks. I can't remember if you did or not, but I feel like we had them winning it.
Monday, I said that they're going to miss the playoffs.
You did? Oh, you did say they're going to miss it. Yeah. So, I mean, I think they were one of the biggest busts, I think, of this year. And the Seahawks, biggest surprise. The last game of the year, you had probably one of the biggest surprises and one of the biggest upsets as far as teams this year. The Seahawks, Geno Smith, didn't write back, started to write back, then didn't write back anymore. Finally back in the playoffs as a Seahawks quarterback. So they got a wild card ready to go on Saturday. The Rams, I just the offense was going through Cooper Kupp too much. And Stafford looked injured, played and looked injured. I don't know what else to say about it other than the offense was clearly not there anymore. Just Stafford was not there. He wasn't his Super Bowl self. And again, the offense was one dimensional. They don't have a running game. Cam Akers has only had what, 2 good games, 3 good weeks, maybe at that. If you want to say that, they just don't have a running game. Huh?
They have a really bad O-line.
Yeah, that too. You know, the Whitworth retired after the Super Bowl, which is a big veteran presence and a guy who's been very good for a long time for the Rams. But they just underperformed because, again, the O-line and the one-dimensional offense, and their defense still had a lot of the same guys. Obviously, they lost a big player in Von Miller, a glue guy, a dominant player. But I think even he saw, like, I don't think next year they're going to be up for another playoff run. So I think he did the best thing he could and went to the next best team, and that was the Bills. But the Rams, huge disappointment. Seahawks, big surprise. What do you got for Rams Seahawks?
I agree with both of those things. The Seahawks are a big surprise. When they said Geno Smith was a starter, I remember having a conversation like, why do some teams just decide to like accept losing, you know? And Geno Smith, it didn't sound like it was going to work. And now it sounds a lot different. You know, Geno Smith, veteran leadership, played really good football. And yeah, I'm extremely surprised by it. And I would say it seems like Seattle won the deal. We'll see and this time next year how we feel about it.
Real quick, I did want to add that the emergence of Kenneth Walker was huge for them too. So I will just add that for the Seahawks.
Absolutely. The Seahawks, yeah, they overperformed. I don't want to get into. I have a lot to say about Seahawks, but it's kind of a later thing. And then the Rams, they're the worst team in NFL history to come off the Super Bowl. No one's ever won only 5 games after winning the Super Bowl. So there's a lot of questions in the air about McVay, Aaron Donald, the Rams. I mean, I feel like they're just hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and they're really close to going back to the Rams, you know, the Rams that we knew growing up.
St. Louis Rams.
Yeah, they're about to go St. Louis Rams if they don't get it together. So, yeah, that is that. We'll see how the Seahawks do. We'll talk more about that in a couple of days. And then the Cardinals and the 49ers. Cardinals, I said it 4 weeks ago, the Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL at this point. I know they won some games early, but when Kyler Murray went out, it was official. They're a total rebuild from the ground up. GM steps away, head coach fired. Everything is literally on fire in that building. No one's job is safe. No one's secure. They're talking about getting rid of everybody. Maybe Kyler Murray, the only thing safe in the building, which is not even that great of a quarterback at this point. We don't know how great he is because we've just seen kind of some off-field antics and on-field antics that have made us wonder what kind of person he is. How invested is he? We had the contract thing. What is it? Does he love football? Does he not love football? Does he have a work ethic? He's offended. A lot of stuff that is just all over the place. And then the 49ers. The 49ers. I'm about to put just so you guys know, I'm about to put out a good 5 to 10 minute video talking about the 49ers because I said Kyle Shanahan's the coach of the year, in my opinion.
Good.
You go with Trey Lance, you maneuver a Jimmy Garoppolo, you keep him happy enough to actually play when Trey Lance goes out. Then Trey Lance goes out, and you start the last pick in the last round in Brock Purdy. And what has happened since Brock Purdy has taken over? Well, when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt in week 13 playing Miami, San Francisco had 0 points. It was only their 8th play of the game. There was 11 minutes and 15 seconds left in the quarter. So I know they say Brock Purdy's first start was against Tampa. His first start was against Miami, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
They scored in that Miami game. They scored 33 points. Then they played Tampa. He scored 35. Only gave up 7. They won 35-7. Next, they played Seattle 21, Washington 37, Las Vegas 37, Arizona 38. What I'm trying to say is with Brock Purdy, they averaged 33.5 points per game. The Kansas City Chiefs averaged 29.2 points per game. The Buffalo Bills averaged 28.4 points per game. The Eagles 28.1. Brock Purdy averages 33.5. I mean, just to put this in even layman's terms, the Seahawks give up 20 points per game, and their offensive average is 19.3 in the last 6 games. That's why they've gone 3-3 in the last 6. It's because it's literally 19-20. It's like, well, you win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. The San Francisco 49ers, their defense is giving up 14 points per game. And if you take out the Las Vegas game, because that was a complete annihilation. But if you add it, they've given up 17 points a game. So you literally have, 19-point differential. So this is not a 49ers team that's beating you. They're number 1 in defense, and their offense right now is number 1. They're extremely balanced. When it comes to throwing the ball, Brock Purdy, he's throwing it 15, 22, 15, 17, 17, 27. When you look at Seattle, it's not even like that, dude. Like Seattle's throwing it 44 times, 40, 31. They're only running it 10 times in the game. Then the next week, they're running it 26 times. No identity. Are they running the football? Are they a passing team? What are they? The 49ers do the same shit every week. They throw the ball between 15 and 25 times, and they run the ball about 34 to 37 times. And they're successful, and they score a shit ton of points.
Consistency.
Yeah, they're very consistent. I don't know how anybody's going to beat this team. And the biggest surprise of it all is that it's being led by the last pick in the last round. I am blown away by what San Francisco has accomplished this year. I mean, it is to me perhaps one of the greatest accomplishments in NFL history, what Kyle Shanahan has been able to do. And the CMC acquisition will go down as one of the greatest trades of all time. This 49ers team, they have a really good problem on their hands with Brock Purdy. They have overexceeded every expectation I could have had. Even when I knew they were great, they exceeded that expectation. They're a juggernaut at this point. They are very, very good. And if it weren't Brock Purdy and the name was Tom Brady, if the name was Aaron Rodgers, if it was anyone like that, this team would be considered unbeatable. But because his name's Brock Purdy, they're just going to say he's pretty good. We'll see about that.
Brock hard, baby. Brock hard.
Brock freaking hard, dude. I'm so Brock
freaking hard. Kyle Shanahan is probably the coach of the year. His offense went from bad to very good to elite levels here. We're talking better than the Bills, the Chiefs, etc., etc. Kyle Shanahan did exactly he didn't do exactly what anybody would do. He did exactly what nobody would do. If you are a coach and you just lost Jimmy G, you're like, there's no way this Purdy kid is that good. Let me pick up Baker. Let me go for one of the veterans that still hasn't been. Let me go for Mike Glennon, for example, right? Let me try to get these guys to salvage this season. No, Kyle Shanahan said, yo, Brock Purdy, hey, dude, I think you could run this offense. Don't get me wrong. The CMC edition, the fact that they have plenty of weapons on the offense and the defense helps out the quarterback.
Can I say something really quick?
Go ahead.
Because a lot of people have made that point, right? They allude to the weapons. Check this out, though. With Jimmy Garoppolo starting for San Francisco, guess what San Francisco record is since Jimmy G has taken over as
3-3, 4-3.
No. Since Jimmy G.
Since
he got traded.
I don't know.
It's insane. Jimmy G is 42-19. Right? Wow. When Jimmy G's not playing, that includes guys like Trey Lance, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Brian Hoyer. They're 9-29. 9-29, which means all of these other guys, same team, are 9-29. Brock Purdy's 6-0.
There you go.
I just wanted to say that because a lot of people are like, yeah, but there's a lot of weapons. It's like, No, like Brock Purdy is doing something miraculous before our eyes, and if we don't stop and realize it, we're gonna miss
Yeah.
it.
And that's what and just Kyle Shanahan was able to identify that. He's like, of course I'm going to try to start him. Why not? And this is exactly how it's paid off, because he is a great coach and is able to, I don't know, just make the best out of a terrible situation. You got Vrabel who can do that too. Obviously, it ended another way for him, but I mean, look at these are the types of coaches that can do that, and Shanahan's up there. As far as the Cardinals, man, definitely underperformed this year. Kyler Murray had the whole issue in the offseason. Clearly, that did not blow over like we thought it did. he was calling plays in the preseason. Oh, I want you to see how hard it is to call these plays. It was not that hard apparently for Kyler Murray because
they work day.
Yeah, take your kid to work day. Oh yeah, I wanted to get him off the Call of Duty. See how he would do it coaching.
Come on, I'm getting you out of the house.
I'm getting you out of the house. I don't know, man. It just was a shit show from the beginning. The fact that they had the midseason Hard Knocks either made it worse, made it better. I think it just continued the shit show that it was. JJ Watt was like, yeah, I'm retiring, bro. This sucks. You know what I mean? Like it was so bad. He was like, I'm retiring. Cardinals underperformed. 49ers looked like they were going to underperform and then completely outperformed any expectations I think that anybody had on the 49ers. I think a lot of people had the Rams or the Arizona Cardinals coming into this year as the NFC West champs. But yeah, that's kind of all I have. The Cardinals suck and the 49ers are very, very good.
JJ Watt to me comes across a guy that is very intentional with his decisions in life. Is there a chance that he comes back and plays for the 49ers, plays for, Philly, plays for, is there a chance that he isn't quite done? He wants to come out as a winner and he's playing at a high level, but does he want to come out, actually relevant as far as the team he is on? Do you think that's floating around?
No, I don't think so. I think, and who knows what's going through his head, but I think even JJ Watt knows, like, yeah, I'm done. I think I'm done. This last season with the Cardinals kind of was like he had 2 sacks in his last game, and I think he wanted to go out on top. He's never going to be able to raise the Super Bowl trophy, and that sucks for him because I feel like what was it, 2-time, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. A guy like him definitely deserves something like that. Yeah, it's just so good. And the kind of guy that he is off the field too, very, very generous, very like always helping charities, always helping people out. He just deserves something like that, and he's never going to get it, unfortunately. The NFL is weird, man. Who knows? Gronk goes in and out of retirement. Who knows if JJ Watt does it? But like you said earlier, JJ Watt seems like a guy who makes a decision, sticks with it, knows what is and isn't going to happen, and he's just like, I am content now. So
JJ Watt's the Tim Duncan of the NFL.
Yeah, but Tim Duncan had at least a nice little dynasty there.
No, he did, but just like, Tim Duncan just quietly retired.
Yeah, low-key guy, and you look at him and you're like, man, that guy's so good. So
some people have him top 5, but this is an NFL podcast. This is our last game of the Week 18 slate. We live streamed it. Thanks, guys, for bearing with. Obviously, this is going to be a longer episode. We're breaking down the entire season for all these teams, just like we did in the beginning of the season. Longer by nature, but let's get into this last one. Lions at Packers. Packers win, and they're in. Lions had nothing to play for because the Seahawks had already won their game against the Rams in overtime, and the Lions came out and they were the better team. They were flat out. They were more physical. Jamal Williams was doing really good. It didn't seem like the Packers were firing. It seemed like they, I don't want to say that they underestimated their opponent because I don't think it really looked like that. It just looked like the Lions were the better team. And we're not talking about the Cardinals came out and they were the better team that day. This is the Lions. When the Lions turned it on, they lost by 3 to the Bills, and they won all of the rest of their games in the season besides the Panthers.
Yep.
So like, let's not just like say like, oh, the Packers like underestimated. You can't underestimate a team that's good like the Lions. You underestimate bad teams. So when you say that, you're really not giving credit where it's due. The Lions were a good team. They came out, they won the game. We talked about it earlier. Lions are going to be good, I think, moving forward. I would say they exceeded my expectations. I did have the Lions having a good year. I had the Bears last, and then I think I had the Lions third and the Packers. So the Lions jumped up to number 2. The Packers, they definitely underperformed my expectations. I thought as long as they have a guy wearing number 12, they would be fine. And it just took a little bit too long for it to click. Christian Watson and Dobbs, the chemistry was finally formed week 13, and or I would say after the Dallas game. And it was just a little bit too late. Unfortunately, they were put in a situation where there was zero margin for error for, a stretch of 6 weeks. That's a long time to not make an error. Even the Detroit Lions lost a bad one to Carolina. So it just seemed like maybe the gas tank was empty towards the end of the season. Packers underperformed, Lions overperformed. What do you think?
Yeah, this was probably one of the best games of the final week of the season, honestly. Like, and for it to be like out of the NFC North, the division my Bears are in, like it was very exciting. You said it. Lions had nothing to play for. They wanted to play spoiler. They wanted to show that they weren't just going to fucking roll over and take the loss while the Packers could go into the playoffs. Right? They're like, division rival. No way. We're gonna beat them. And that's exactly what they did. Like you said, they out physicaled them. It wasn't necessarily that they were a much better offensive team, a much better defensive team. It's just that the physicality between the two and the fact that the Packers have a pretty young, not so mature team, and it showed that in the game. That's kind of what killed them, right? That's kind of what killed them at the end. It was penalties and just like the immaturity from the team. It's just the Lions were just better physically. As far as the Lions, man, yeah, completely blew my expectations out of the water. At one point, they were 1-6. I gave them the done chain. I was like, that's it. They're done. Dan Campbell probably getting fired at the end of the season, right around the same time when I called that. The owners were like, we believe in Dan Campbell. We're going to give him another year. I felt like maybe it was those words from them that really kind of like clicked for Dan Campbell. And don't get me wrong, Dan Campbell's not a guy who needs somebody to inspire him or to motivate him. He's got more than enough of that for the entire world. But it just seemed that right there, like, had him turn the corner. His guys bought in, and they were able to get to week 18 in a scenario where they were like, if we win and the Seahawks lose, we can possibly get in the playoffs after the shit start that we had, right? You look at the Carolina loss and you're like, damn, that was really it right there. That was kind of the nail in the coffin that kind of brought them to week 18 and needed somebody else to lose for them to get in. But they blew my expectations. They completely overperformed. They're going to be, I don't want to say very good next year, but they're going to be pretty damn good next year. They're going to be a team that is going to be very a contender, I think, off the bat. The Packers underperformed for me, obviously. I think I had them winning the NFC North. And again, I didn't expect the Vikings to be as good as they were, or, depending how you want to look at it, as lucky as they were. But the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, like you said, they had 12 there. I've seen 12 for a long time, like 13, 14 years now. So I thought, okay, as long as he's there, he's going to be just the veteran, the Hall of Fame quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback. That's going to be like, hey guys, RELAX, relax. We got this. Unfortunately, that's not how it went down. They needed this week 18 win to get into the playoffs. Didn't happen. And, that's just, I feel like this kind of sums up their season in a way where it's like, we need this to happen, or we need to perform like this. And they just couldn't do it. That's all it was. They couldn't do it. As a Bears fan talking, I hope they're dead. I hope they're dead. I hope they're dead for the entirety of their existence. At least my life. I hope we destroy the Packers from here on out. I hope they're dead. But yeah, that's kind of where I got the Packers. You know, again, underperformed. Lions overperformed. Great end to week 18.
Yeah. It was a great end to the season. And I think as far as the playoff picture was, I expected a couple things to shift. I had Green Bay going in. Really, the only thing that changed was the fact that the Packers didn't get in and Seattle went in. I didn't see that happening. I really didn't. So besides that, I think everything kind of stayed the way that we expected. And then Miami getting in was no real like surpriser. I think the way that they won that game was kind of shocking. Like I was like, I expected them to maybe go out there and have a more kind of exclamation mark victory, knowing what's at stake, but they don't look. They need Tua. They cannot run that offense without him. So we will get into like matchup stuffs and stuff like that next week. So we're gonna do a little switch up here. So we normally do top five. And
wait.
Top five, no debating. Top five.
Top five, but we're going to call it something different, right? We're going to call it. So do you want to go AFC and NFC, or do you want to do all of them together?
We're going to do all of them together. We're going to go 14-1.
Oh, shit.
14-1. 14-1. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, the guts. The guts.
14-1.
Oh,
if you guys are sticking with us, we're 2 hours and 20 minutes in. I just want to say thank you for sticking with us here.
This is like the Avatar movie. We're honestly, it's the Avatar movie.
Honestly, right? Like if you're sticking with us at this point, like you guys are true fans, and we appreciate every second that you've listened to us. But like Kyle said, we're gonna go into the top 5 playoff edition. And like I think I just broke it to Kyle. We're going 14-1. We're going from 14-1. But let's kick it off here. We're not going to talk about the matchups because that is for a Wednesday show. So you guys should be prepared for Wednesday. It's going to be a really good show. We're going to talk about the matchups. But all right, Kyle, are you ready to go 14-1?
Yes. No, you go first because I had them separated. It's easy though. I can.
Okay. My number 14. Do you want me to go through 14-1 or do you want to go 14, 14, 13, 13, 12, 12? Like we usually do with fives.
Yeah, let's do. You want to just do the whole thing.
Okay. My number 14 is the New York Giants. I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry.
Damn.
I got the Giants at number 14. It was a close call for me. Because number 13 isn't going to be too much of a surprise, I don't think. But the Giants at 14, they fell off here towards the back half of the second half of the season. I just can't see them getting out of wild card weekend. And I think Bill kind of agrees. I just don't see them getting out of it. My 13 is going to be the Seahawks. I love the story. I love what's been going on in Seattle. We live near here, so we kind of know what the buzz has been. But my 13 is going to Seattle. I don't know if Geno Smith is going to have enough to win a wild card matchup, especially away from Seattle and the 12. So I got Seahawks at 13. Number 12. Going with the Dolphins at number 12 because Tua-less, he still has not been clear for football activities. You said it, Kyle. This defense isn't built for anyone outside of Tua, and that's exactly what has been happening over these last few weeks with Tua gone. If Tua's not in the playoffs, not on the team, there's no way they make it past wild card weekend.
Agreed.
Number 11, I've got the Vikings. The Vikings are number 11 for me. I said it earlier, whichever way you want to look at it, the Vikings have either been pretty good this year or they've been pretty lucky this year. This is a team, they got the division crown, but when you look at the games they've played, the games have gone their way in terms of luck. The ball bounces their way. They come back from a 33-0 halftime deficit somehow. It just is the way it is. They're in the playoffs. I don't necessarily think that they are a playoff caliber team, although they do have playoff caliber players. But I just I don't know. They're outside the top 10 for me. I just, again, which Vikings team are we going to see in the playoffs? That's kind of my question. Number 10, get into the top 10 here. Number 10, I got the Ravens, and this really depends if Lamar Jackson is going to be on the Ravens squad for the playoffs. There is still, I think John Harbaugh said something about, or he declined to comment on whether or not Lamar Jackson was practicing this week. So when you're declining to comment, that doesn't really reinforce any positivity into the pick there. So I'm going Ravens at number 10. Number 9, I've got the Chargers. Herbert, great quarterback. The offense is looking good. The defense is looking like it's stepping up as well. But they still have Staley at head coach. He's like coaching a Wild West team or something like that. He is just like 4th and 20. Let's fucking go for it. Yeah. On my own 7-yard line. Yeah. Screw it. Let's go. So Staley is going to probably be the thing that really kills, I think, the Chargers there in the playoffs. Number 8, I've got the Jaguars. Got the Jaguars at number 8. Another awesome story this year. Trevor Lawrence has looked better. Doug Peterson has brought this team together. It looks promising for the playoffs for them, but I still got them in the lower, or at least the bottom 50% of all playoff teams. Number 7, I'm going Cowboys. Number 7. It's been weird watching the Cowboys these last few weeks towards the end of the season. And the Cowboys like the Cowboy. The Cowboys like the Cowboy in the playoffs. They love the Cowboy. Dak Prescott has looked rough. So that's kind of all I got to say about the Cowboy. Mike McCarthy may also fuck it up for him. He's not the greatest coach either. He won 1 Super Bowl and he had Aaron Rodgers. Like, come on, right? Like, come on. So it's not like he has that, and it's not like he has a second.
McCarthy.
yeah, I kind of hate McCarthy for winning that Super Bowl.
Don't get me wrong, he's a fucking idiot.
He's a dumb piece of garbage. No, and it's not like Dak Prescott is like anywhere near Aaron Rodgers level. So I don't think they're gonna Cowboy. Number 6, I have the Bucks. This was a tough one, but I think I have them at the right spot. The Bucks with Tom Brady in the playoffs. Dangerous team, hasn't looked like himself really at any point of the season. Maybe that one game he had with Mike Evans was probably the best game he's had this year. But that's kind of all I got to say about the Bucks. The offense looks bad. The Todd Bowles, the head coach, just makes some really questionable calls sometimes. So that's kind of where I have the Bucks. Number 5. Kyle's going to hate me, I think. I've got the Eagles at number 5 right now. Eagles at number 5. They're very good. They're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. Kyle's leaving. Kyle just took his headphones off. So we know where Kyle's head's at here. I got the Eagles at 5.
Follow me at FTBL only podcast. You guys know I love you. It's not you. It's not you.
What's that? We're no longer live? That's crazy. Got the Eagles at 5. They're good. They're a good team. Good team. But I think my 4 through 1 is just they're dangerous. My number 4 is the Bengals. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, P. Ryan, or Mixon. Mixon's back too. That team looks so good, dude. It's so good. And like you said, it's the Bengals or the Bills against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. That's it. You can make the same, decision or you can make the same statement for the Eagles, because I think it's pretty much going to be them in the NFC Championship. And don't get me wrong, yes, they probably will be, but my number 3 is the 49ers, and I just think that they're gonna just put a stomping on a lot of these teams that they go up against. The 49ers offense is so good. Brock Purdy is somehow putting up 33 points per game, like Kyle said earlier. They've just proven that they've been really good. Kyle Shanahan, Coach of the Year candidate, probably going to win it. So they're good, and their defense is just outstanding as well. So you got to have both of those to win, and the 49ers have probably the better offense and defense than the Eagles, although I think the Eagles somehow are a better team. Number 2,
the
Eagles
Chiefs
are
better than the 49ers?
This season they have been
But
going into the playoffs.
But you have the Niners at 4 and the
going
Eagles
into the playoffs. Going into the playoffs. As the playoffs. The Eagles, I think, looked better during the season, but I think going into the playoffs, the 49ers are the better team. I know that's backwards. I know that sounds backwards, but in my head, it makes sense.
This is okay.
Number 2.
I'll have my turn.
Number 2, I've got the Chiefs. Got the Chiefs at number 2. It's Patrick Mahomes, home field advantage, first round bye. This offense is you said it yourself. He broke the record for yards, right? Without Tyreek Hill. Like it's insane what he's been doing. So I got the Chiefs at number 2. AFC is running through their home of Arrowhead Stadium. And number 1, what I've said since the preseason, the Bills. Number 1 is the Bills. I've got the Bills going into Arrowhead, possibly. Because I don't know how this is going to work out. Who knows who's the better team?
Neutral site.
Who knows who's the better team in that divisional round? But I've got the Bills at number 1. I think they take it all. I think they get the Super Bowl this year.
All right.
Kyle, I think Mr. Tyler here, if it ain't Mr. Bad Luck Bears guy.
You're going to be known, you're going to be known for Bad Luck Bears guy forever now.
I know. I love it.
Because the Packers were winning and then you hopped on the stream and then that bullshit started happening.
It's literally my favorite thing ever now.
All right. Okay. I mean, it's not I think you have a lot of valid points. I think you have, and if you're just joining us now, we're ranking from 14 to 1 the playoff teams that are currently in the playoffs. So I'm going to start with number 14. I have the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
For the reasons that I said earlier, we've seen the Seahawks play well. Geno obviously exceeded expectations, but they don't have an identity. Sometimes they pass it 45 times and they run it 4 times with Kenneth Walker. It doesn't really make sense. And sometimes they run it, but they do it against good rushing defenses. They just seem like they're always kind of, you never know what they are. Are they a running team? Are they a passing team? And they started the season pretty good. It was, better than average. But I think that people were really hype on them because of the situation with Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. I think people got higher on the Seahawks because the Russell Wilson thing, right? It was like, because we expected Geno Smith did outperform our expectations, but I'm not that high in the Seahawks. Number 13, I have the New York Giants.
Yep.
The New York Giants, I said it just a little bit ago. They are 17th in yards per game on offense, and they're 4th in rushing. So they do seem to have a balanced offense going for them defensively. They're very vulnerable. Is it 27th in yards per game? So I do have the Giants being a one-and-done team. That's what landed them at 13 because the Giants aren't playing the Seahawks. So number 12, I got Miami. Miami was a team that was really, really high on when they had Tua, when they were 6-1 or whatever. They beat Buffalo week 3. Things were looking really good. And then, unfortunately, injuries, it's part of the game. Tua got hurt, and we just don't know. Is Tua going to be available or is he not? If he's not available, the victories that they're having against the Jets, the 11-9s, I don't see that doing anything in the playoffs. You got an offense that is literally tailored for Tua. If he's not in the game, they are not going to be successful. If they do have him, I would put Miami up about 3 to 4 spots. But that is TBD. Number 11, I have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay there because of Tom Brady. Tampa Bay, in reality, should be probably lower on the list because Tampa Bay has been pretty bad this year, right? You said it earlier. Yeah. They're just not good right now. They were able to find a gear that they haven't found in a long time and get Mike Evans involved. He had like 3 touchdown passes against Carolina. So Tampa Bay, if they can kind of keep that momentum going, you can never rule out Tom Brady, but are they considered on the list of playoff teams an actual, person that you should be afraid of? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, I have Jacksonville.
Oh,
Jacksonville
wow.
winning their division. We've seen Trevor Lawrence have fourth quarters where he throws 3 touchdown passes. We've seen him show some of that first round greatness, why he was drafted that high. And then we just saw Jacksonville with the ability to win games with their defense. So I like that if Trevor Lawrence is having a, average day at the office, the defense can pick up the slack. That's what you kind of need when you go into these playoff games. You never know how you're going to win a game. And I think Jacksonville, I have them at number 10. The Chargers are going to be at number 9. I think Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback. They're depleted by injuries, and I just think that they can only go so far. There's other teams. I think they could win one playoff game, and that's kind of the area we're getting into right now. Teams that may win wild card round, but eventually lose in the divisional round, and that's kind of how I'm feeling about the Chargers. Number
8.
Number 8, thank you. Number 8, I got the Baltimore Ravens, assuming Lamar Jackson's healthy.
Oh, what?
This is what happens. Everyone's a victim of the moment. That is what happens. When Lamar Jackson was in, the Ravens were winning most of their games. They almost beat Buffalo, but they gave up some unlikely comeback at the end. They were averaging 28 points per game. Lamar Jackson, when he's in and playing and healthy, like, Baltimore's a good team. It's been 6 weeks since we've seen Baltimore score 17 points. And if you're a victim of the moment, Baltimore falls way down your list. You forget about a guy named Lamar Jackson. He's coming back, former league MVP, and he's going to be out there with something to prove, trying to get a big contract next year, in spite of the injuries. So number 7, I have Minnesota. Minnesota, eh? I got Minnesota. Which Minnesota team are we going to get? I'm not really sure, but I've seen Minnesota be really damn good. My problem with them is they've also gotten beat really bad by Dallas. Remember that game? Like 33-0 at one point or something.
And the Philly too.
Yeah. So that was like week 2. So we've seen Minnesota 12 games within 3 points. They're playing a lot of close games and they're winning them, which is a good thing to have going into playoffs. It's a good trait because naturally the playoff games are going to be really close and you need to have a team that is comfortable when they're down 7 with 5 minutes left, knowing that they've been there, for 12 games and they can go out there and win the game and have the confidence because it's happened so many times. I think that's going to come in handy in a couple of their close matchups. Right above them, I have Dallas. And I know Dallas.
Oh, wow.
I have them one above because Dallas beat them the way they did. If Dallas can run the football effectively with Pollard and Zeke and establish that first, then the CeeDee Lamb, then the Gallup, and then T.Y. Hilton starting to have a role. Last week was terrible. There's no easy way to say it. They had a really, really bad day at the office. But I'm not gonna forget about the whole season because there is an opportunity that Dallas comes out and they play in a form that we saw earlier this season. And if that happens, when Dallas is playing their best football, of course they're a top 7 team. That's why we had them in our top 5 at one point.
Yep.
So if we get that, Cowboys, I like their chances. Right above them, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the world, and he may be the greatest quarterback ever when it's all said and done, as far as I'm concerned.
He's at 5?
Yeah.
You're insane. Continue.
Okay.
Continue.
Patrick Mahomes, greatest quarterback in the world, in my opinion. The defense is very vulnerable. They are going to play offenses that are going to exploit them. They're going to get into shootouts. Now, if you're getting into a shootout, what I'm really trying to say is that the other teams on my list are teams that are going to pull away. There will be no shootout because their defenses won't allow it. So when it comes to Mahomes, he can only do so much. And I have questions about the Chiefs defense. I think the Chiefs are going to be in the AFC title game. I think there's a good chance that they are. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to throw them into 1 or 2 when we're talking about Super Bowls now. I think they need a couple of pieces on defense. It's really hard to get to the Super Bowl. And to do it, usually you have to be good in every position, or at least good on both sides of the ball. And they're like 20th on defense. I mean, I don't know if that's going to cut it. Number 4, I have Cincinnati. I have Cincinnati above the Chiefs because Cincinnati's beaten the Chiefs. I saw them beat the Chiefs this year. I saw them beat the Chiefs last year in Arrowhead. Joe Burrow has beaten Mahomes enough times for me to feel confident about putting Cincinnati above them. You mentioned it earlier. You have Cincinnati at 4 as well. So we really have no argument there. We can agree on Cincinnati being really good, top 5.
Bengals at 4? Are you kidding me?
I was like, bro, you literally had the Bengals at 4.
God, I was so confused. It's like, what?
Yeah, I was like, did you just get that? Is this thing delayed? Number 3, I got Buffalo. Number 3.
Okay.
Buffalo plays good defense. No Von Miller. We saw Miami with Tua. We saw Miami win, and then the next time they played, it felt like a better. It felt like kind of a better measuring stick game to understand who Miami and Buffalo was. Where that first game, it was like it was hot. The weather was a factor. Time of possession was lopsided. It just didn't seem like it felt like a fluke. Where when they beat Buffalo, or when Buffalo beat Miami the second time, it felt like that was really both of those teams playing at their highest level. And Buffalo won that game, and I got Buffalo at number 3. Number 2, I have Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts, this is another, I think you became a victim of the moment because the guy loses one football game in an entire 18-week season. And they have to go with Gardner Minshew for 2 weeks. And because they lost 2 weeks, I think Philly's taking a drop. That has nothing to do, though, with Jalen Hurts. I think because I said earlier, Philly is number 2 defensively in yards per game. And offensively, they're scoring, where was it? I wrote it down. It was 28.1 points per game, which is 3rd in the NFL. So you're getting into my top 1, 2, 3. You're going to have teams that are top 5 on offense and defense, which the Chiefs are not. And that's why they're not there. So Philly, number 2, I think that they have the potential to make it to the Super Bowl this year and win the Super Bowl. And number 1, I have the 49ers. The 49ers, for all the reasons I said, since Brock Purdy took over. Hey, 1 game lies, 2 games lie, 3 games, maybe you're fooling me. Okay, what point are we going to say we got film on Brock Purdy? At what point are we going to do that? They're averaging 33.5 points per game with Brock Purdy at offense. The Chiefs average 29 points a game. So they have the most explosive offense in the NFL right now, and they have the best defense, best rush defense. Their passing defense is insane. They play a cover 6. It's the Vic Fangio tree. They are a beast. Their safety, I'm forgetting his name right now. Their strong safety is one of the best in the league at this point. They have Kyle Shanahan, who is an offensive genius. He has simplified the offense, and literally it is just too easy. It's like playing Madden on rookie. And they haven't even got Debo back yet. Like they're about to get Debo Samuel back. Debo is going to be doing his thing with CMC. And I mean, there's just nothing not to like about this 49ers team. There's not a weak spot. And on top of that, everybody that plays them gets literally banged up. Look at the injury report from their opponents the next week. It's like this long. This is a physical team that punches you in the mouth on defense. They have the defensive player of the year with Nick Bosa on that team. And that's the best player on their defense, but it's close with the strong safety. The defense is so good that even if the offense was between 10 and 15, I would still have them in the top 5. And the offense is playing at a number 1 level right now in the last 6 weeks. And I said it earlier, if Brock Purdy's name was Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, or Patrick Mahomes, everybody would have the 49ers as a Super Bowl favorite. But it's the inexperience with Brock Purdy that doesn't have people seeing the truth. We've never seen anything like it. I think we're going to see it this year. I have the 49ers.
Kyle wants to be so right on this 49ers pick. that he's willing
the
to,
numbers. I'm just reporting the news.
Willing to give up his trust and his knowledge.
Bro, I'm just reporting the news. This is what he's done. He scores 38 points every week. I mean, at what point are we going to give the nod?
I don't think it's in the playoffs. That's for sure.
Why
really
not?
don't think it's in the playoffs. I think they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team, but I don't think Brock Purdy has enough to really get them there.
All right. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Kyle's going to die on this hill. And I'm gonna be the one that stabs him in the stomach with the what do you call it? The fucking
wait. So just to clarify, though, the 49ers, they're gonna be in the NFC Championship, correct?
I got them in the NFC Championship.
Okay, so that means that they're at least the second best team in the AFC.
Maybe in the NFC Championship. I don't know, man. It's just they're so good going into the playoffs. They look so good going into the playoffs. That's why I have them ranked up at number 3. I don't know. You got the Bucks with Tom Brady, the experience there. Who knows what happens with the Vikings? Who knows what happens with the Vikings? The Eagles are gonna probably kill it too. I don't know.
Eagles are the biggest threat for the Niners. Period.
Yeah, but again, it's just like we can't just throw away the Bucks and Tom Brady's experience, the Vikings, the way games have gone for them, even the Cowboys. As much as I know the Cowboys are going to cowboy this away, it's like Super Bowl winning head coach, and you got Dak Prescott, who can probably be good sometimes and have a great running game too, with Tony Pollard and all these guys, CeeDee Lamb. Like you just don't know, right? That's the beauty of this game, is that so much stuff has happened this season that it's just like, who knew Brock Purdy was going to be 6-0, right? Like, who would have called that? There's no way anybody would have called that.
Nobody.
So it's just what's happening in this season is insanity, and it's going to fall into the playoffs because
one thing I wanted to say, you finish. Sorry.
I was going to say 49ers can make it to the Super Bowl, but that's just the insanity of what the NFL is.
The Tampa Bay and Brock Purdy was Brock Purdy's first official start, and that game was 35-7.
Mm-hmm.
So that game happened when Tampa Bay was desperate for a win to get in the playoffs, and that's what happened. They played Washington, who was a playoff team at that point. And they needed a win to hold their spot down. They lost. They won 37-20. They played Arizona 38-13. What makes them different than any other team is their margin of victory. That is what makes them so impressive. They're winning on an average of 20 points per game.
No, I get that. And it's the numbers are there. They speak for themselves, no doubt. But it's like, it's just like what happened, for example, that the Packers-Lions game. We were trying to, it was like, it's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. It's Aaron Rodgers. But he threw 2 interceptions that game, and the Lions came out with a dub. Like, what do you... That was insane. That was insanity. So just, it's not that I don't believe the numbers. It's not that I don't trust the numbers. It's just sometimes it's like, dude, I just got a feeling. And sometimes that feeling is good. And sometimes that feeling is bad. That's just kind of my take on it, is like, sure, the Bucks suck this year. They're bad. The Brock Purdy 49ers with Brock Purdy are 6-0 and somehow outscoring teams by 20 plus. But it's just like, it's the playoffs. It means more in the playoffs. Brady got into the playoffs by the skin on his fucking balls, and is just like, he's not going to let this just opportunity slip away. I don't know. There's so many things can happen.
I'm glad you broke that down, because I can understand that. You're like, anything can happen. You're like, I'm going to buy into that any given Sunday mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Brock Purdy, right? There's no trust there, even though the regular season happened. For me, I'm putting my trust in my coach of the year. I have Kyle Shanahan as coach of the year, and what he's going to do in the playoffs is going to probably cement that. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the over under for the Seahawks game is 10 points. That's not high enough. I got the 49ers winning easily by 17. That's a playoff game.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't give away too much content. But all right. Well, that was our top 14 for all you guys. 2 hours and 50 minutes. Thank you guys for those who stayed with us this entire time. It was like watching both Avatar movies in one sitting. we appreciate you guys. Next episode will be Wednesday as we break down the Super Wild Card weekend, starting Saturday, going into a Monday night game, I think with the Bucks and Cowboys, ending with that. So we'll bring you that on Wednesday. I'm going to bring you some content. Going to have my dog try to pick wild cards, see if he can do it better than we can. But we'll see what else this week holds for us. And playoff football, baby. Playoff NFL. I love it.
Playoff time. Yeah, I'm gonna be making videos too about how much I love the 49ers and how Brock hard I get with Purdy. There's gonna be a lot of that. That's my team now. I'm Mr. Irrelevant. How can you not? How can you not?
No, it's a great story. It is a great story. Kyle's gonna die in that hill though. Oh my god, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fucking great.
I'm gonna have a laundry list of excuses if it doesn't work.
He's like, okay, but look, what I meant to say was
that pass interference call was bullshit.
It was on the offense. What are you talking about? So that was our episode. Thank you for sticking by. We kind of broke down the entire season. So really, honestly, guys, thank you guys for sticking by. Bill, Tyler, calling me the Bad Luck Bears guy. I love it. The other Tyler, thanks for hopping in and sticking with us. If you guys want to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, you can follow us at Star6 Media, and you can follow us on Twitter at _Star6 Media. Kyle, where can they follow you on Twitter?
It's always backwards. You can follow me at FTBLONLY podcast. See my retweets of Broncos Country, Let's Cry, and our hopefully next head coach that'll change everything.
And you could follow me at And Now Rick on Twitter. Probably going to be live tweeting the draft. The Bears are on the clock, baby. The Bears are on the clock. So that's gonna be fun for anybody that tunes in. One last comment here from Bill. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for giving me something to listen to while I was working. Absolutely, Bill. Appreciate you hopping on as always. Always a pleasure to kind of be giving you guys entertainment, and that's what we are here to do.
Yep. Kyle, good luck to the G-Men.
Yeah, good luck to the G-Men. Good luck to all the teams into this wild card weekend, but tune in Wednesday for our super wild card weekend breakdown show. Kyle, you got anything else before we skedaddle up out of here?
That's all I got. If you got a dog in the fight, savor the moment.
Indeed. All right, Kyle. See ya.
See ya.